Once upon a time, there was a tragic girl. Stop. We agreed this was a sweet, heartwarming, super satisfying story. The satisfying kind that slaps you in the face. Let's start again. This girl's name is Mujiosi, the eldest daughter of the general's mansion, a daughter of heaven, distinct love and hate. In a past life, she was framed by villains, leading to the execution of her entire family. Fueled by hatred, she fell into reincarnation. After completing 5,000 interdimensional missions, she finally gained a chance at rebirth. This time, she not only returned, but also brought back a cheat code. Let's see how she takes revenge and punishes the villains. The story of their past life begins on a snowy winter day. The entire Mu family knelt on the execution ground. The onlookers whispered amongst themselves, how glorious the Mu family once was. Now they've met with total annihilation. It's all their own fault. Treason is a grave crime. A man with a resolute face walked towards Mu Jiosi. This man is the one he's always been obsessed with. His cousin, Lin Ziqian, whom he's been betrothed to since childhood. Lin Ziqian grabbed Mu Jusi's hair, forcing him to look away. He wanted him to watch his parents die. Mu Jusi could no longer bear it. He broke free. Taking advantage of Lin Ziqian's distraction, he pulled out the knife from his waist. May you die a horrible death. It's a pity Mu Jiosi never practiced with a sword. It was snatched away by Lin Zi the moment it was drawn. He raised the sword and cruelly swung it at Mu Jiosi. Bitch, I originally intended to spare your life. But you insisted on courting death, so I'll grant you your wish. Before her death, Mu Jiosi reflected on the foolish things she had done in this life. He was deceived by the Lin family's father and son with their sweet words, causing such misfortune for the Mu family. If the Lin family hadn't had the Mu family support, they would have been beggars long ago. In this life, I cannot forgive my enemies. If there is a next life, I will definitely become strong, and personally send those who harmed the Mu family to hell. First, congratulations, host, on completing 5,000 plain tasks, earning 1 rebirth opportunity. Host, would you like to return and take revenge now? Faced with the system's prompt, having experienced numerous difficult tasks in reincarnation, the now incredibly resolute Mujios decisively said, cut. In the general's mansion, Mujios opened his hazy eyes on the bed. He sat up from the bed. I've just been reborn. My head still hurts. As he was holding his forehead, the maidservant, Axie, approached carrying water. Seeing Mujusi awake, Axie was so excited that she dropped the things in her hands. She rushed towards Miss Mujusi. You're finally awake. I thought you'd never wake up. Jiosi struggled to lift the screaming maid, a Qian, who was lying on top of him. I'm awake. But I was almost crushed to death. Then he noticed his hands. Why are my hands so small? He realized he had been reborn as a child. Mujiosi went completely mad. Get me out of this system. Wasn't I supposed to be reborn? Why am I so small? With a whoosh, the system cheat, by Wanzi, brought by Jiosi from the reincarnation cycle, appeared. Facing the furious Mujiosi, Bai Wanzi touched its round waist, stammering, The positioning seems to be a little off. It's a little early. That's called a little early. Mujiosi's head started to ache. I came back for revenge. Like this, what can I do? What did I gamble on? This is the most absurd rebirth I've ever seen. In my past life, I suffered greatly. My entire family was framed. We were all executed. All because I foolishly gave my heart to my wolfish cousin. I finally completed 5,000 unnamed tasks, and earned a chance at rebirth. I've even returned to my childhood. Now, Musos looks at my frail little body. I have a terrible headache. How am I supposed to carry out my revenge? Suddenly, he remembered Axie's surprised expression when he first woke up. He turned to Axie and asked, I ask you, why did I faint? Axie looked terrified. Miss, you've forgotten that Qian Yuaning chased the young master to the Wanhua Lu. Then, I opened my eyes and was pushed down the stairs. Young master, wasn't that what Mujiosi was thinking about? A voice calling, cousin, pulled him back to reality. Lin Ziqian saw Lin Ziqian run over and grab Mujiosi's hand, expressing his hypocritical concern. Cousin, you're finally awake. You don't know how worried I was while you were unconscious. I was so worried. Facing this enemy from a past life, Mujiosi was so angry he could have exploded. He disgustedly pulled back his hand. My cousin stayed at my doorstep every day, waiting to see when I would die. Lin Ziqian continued his hypocritical act. He stated that it was all his fault. He was willing to accept any punishment Mujiosi meted out. Mujiosi then thought that there must be someone else behind his cousin and father. He would wait until he found out the truth before slowly taking revenge for his past life. Even so, he couldn't let this villain off easily. He suddenly thought of a good plan. Then, he called a Qian with a smile, quietly instructing Akian to prepare something, while a bewildered Akian went to prepare what Mujiosher wanted. Mu Jiushi began to kowtow to Lin Ziqian, addressing him as cousin. Do you know? I pleaded with the heavenly grandfather in my dream, and only then did he allow me to wake up, but he said there was a condition. Lin Ziqian thought to himself, I bet it's nothing good. But I still gritted my teeth and asked what the conditions were. Mu Jiu curled her lips. It's just, the girl brought the things. Then Akian came in, carrying a bucket that stank terribly with both hands. The bucket was really ugly. Even though Akian tied a handkerchief over her face as a barrier, it was still quite a sight to behold. Lin Ziqian was also overwhelmed by the stench. He loudly scolded the maidservant, saying she didn't know the rules. Why did you bring Gong Tong in? From the side, Mu Jiu's continued. The divine grandpa said that the reason I fell unconscious was because there was too much filth in my body. After waking up, I must have someone completely sincere to remove the defilement for me. Only then can I fully recover. That is, someone needs to help me dispose of the Gong Tu. Then use mugwort to cleanse the Gong Tu. 99 times, 81 times. Lin Ziqian completely lost it upon hearing this. Gu Jusi, have you hit your head? Do you want me to go cleanse your Gong Tu for you? Jiu Si is still pretending to be innocent in my dream. What should I do? The immortal grandpa said this must be decided by another hand of fate. Saying this, he stroked his chin, pretending to be helpless and said, my cousin is unwilling. I can only break off the engagement, and find someone who is willing. Lin Ziqian froze. His engagement with Mu Jusi was the key to his social mobility. Under no circumstances could it be broken. A swishing sound came from the courtyard. Lin Ziqian was seen miserably scrubbing the floor under the foreman's supervision. A person sent by Mu Jusi to supervise him stood beside him. Servants passing by whispered amongst themselves. I heard that a few days ago, young Master Lin was caught visiting a brothel by a courtesan. He angered someone and was punished for it, because he chose a poor wife. He didn't marry into a wealthy family. Master Lin insisted on pursuing Mu Jia. His days ahead will be difficult. Lin Ziqian was already in a very bad mood, hearing others gossip. I lost control for a moment. I still wanted to kick the bow. I won't do it again. Even after kicking it, I wasn't satisfied. I was going to stomp on it with my foot. As a result, not only did I slip and fall, but the poor bow also came apart. Faced with this situation, it's for the tour guide. He picked up another quiver from the side. Broken. Let's change it. There are still 81 arrows left. Meanwhile, Mu Jiu's and Bai Wanzi in the room were watching all this through a holographic projection. The man and the ball laughed their heads off. Then he stood up and said to Bai Wanzi, let's go. We've seen enough. I'm going to find my father. Who will Mu Jiu see meet in her father's study? Let's wait and see. As the ancient said, if you love someone, you should give them a good scrubbing. Of course, this ancient is referring to our young lady, Mu Jiu Si. Reborn back to her childhood, she is determined to avenge her past life. And so, her wolfish cousin is threatened with a broken engagement. I'm miserably working on the foreman's tasks. After lecturing my cousin, he took Bai Wanzi and prepared to go to the study to find his father. Father opened the study door. The father, who was receiving guests, was a little surprised by his sudden arrival. At this moment, Jiu Si's heart was full of melancholy. In my past life, I didn't harm the whole family. Now I can see father again. She threw herself at her father, burying herself in his embrace. Father looked at his daughter, gently asking, why did you suddenly come? Jusi buried her head in her father's arms. Jusi wanted to see her father. A voice suddenly came from the side. The daughter raised by the great general of the jumping sacrifice is truly extraordinary. At such a young age, she is so filial. Jiu Si only then realized that there were others in the study. This person was the emperor's younger brother, the Duke of Xiaoyao. She had to prepare herself. Her usually decisive father rarely showed affection in front of others. It was slightly awkward. Jiu Si began to recall. At this time of year, natural disasters and man-made calamities occurred continuously. The King Xiaoyao failed in controlling the floods in Huangzhou, and was left disabled. Father pleaded for him, but they were punished together. The Mu family also began to lose favor in the emperor's eyes. I need to find a way to remind the carefree king. He climbed down from his father's arms, and went before the prince. First, he performed a bow. Then, he suddenly looked at Su Juanbei with regret. Oh, what a pity. Su Juanbei was deeply curious about his actions. Little girl, why do you look at this king with such regretful eyes? Mu Jiu Si revealed a playful smile. Your Highness, if you wish to know, please grant me one request. Suddenly, a pair of large hands lifted Mu Jiu Si from behind. Don't mutter. Disrespectful. Father intercepted his daughter. I apologize to your Highness for my daughter's lack of manners. However, His Highness Shui Juanbei found the little girl's words interesting. It's all right, speak. Miss Mu, what do you want this prince to do? I haven't decided yet. I'll tell your Highness when I have. May I? The prince looked at this young lady, unsure of her intentions. He simply smiled and agreed. Mu Jiuxi still felt uneasy. She extended her pinky finger and hooked it with the prince's. Bei Yu found it amusing. He thought this little girl was truly interesting. He also extended his pinky finger. Their hands touched. Little girl, you've made a good deal. This is the first time I've hooked fingers with anyone. Su Nua. In Mu Jiuxi's room in the evening, Bai Wanzi squinted and said to Mu Jiuxi, that since coming to this world, his power seems to have weakened. But he also loyally declared that he could still protect Mu Jiuxi. Mu Jiuxi remained silent. In these 5,000 worlds, it's hard to say who's protecting whom. Just as the exposed Bai Wanzi was about to go crazy, suddenly, a sickly green-robed figure arrived from outside. In her past life, it was he who repeatedly brought her and Lin Ziqian together. Initially, Mu Jiuxi thought it was deep master-servant affection, sisterly love, but unexpectedly, in the end, it was also he who led people into the Mu mansion to confiscate their property. The green-robed figure respectfully said to Mu Jiuxi, Uncle, my master is waiting for him outside. Lin Yushan, my good uncle. I haven't even looked for him yet. He's come to me instead. About to face my greatest enemy from my past life. How will Mu Jiuxi react? What will it feel like to have a past life enemy come looking for you? Mu Jiuxi, reborn, had originally planned to find the people responsible for the extermination of her entire family in her past life. He was quite sensible. He had the maidservant call him out. Of course, at this time, he never imagined that Mu Jiuxi had arrived at the door with the lingering suspicions of her past life. Mu Jiuxi looked around, but she didn't see Linglong Mountain. At this time, a ball flew over with a whoosh. Luckily, Mu Jiuxi was prepared. He quickly dodged. The person who came was Lin Yushan's daughter, Lin Fu's second miss, Lin Zijin. She came angrily. It turned out she was here to demand justice for her brother, who had been tricked by Mu Jiuxi into doing manual labor. Faced with the aggressive Lin Zijin, Mu Jiuxi didn't back down at all. He kicked the ball at his feet. This is Mu's house, not Lin's. I dare you to try and touch me. Lin Zijin didn't expect Mu Jiuxi to dare to confront him like this. Before, because he liked his brother, he repeatedly provoked him. He hated him so much. Mu Jiuxi, what are you so proud of? This isn't my aunt's house. When your aunt heard Lin Zijin mention his mother, Mu Jiuxi's temper flared up immediately. He fiercely kicked the ball back. In your past life, when you publicly humiliated my mother, did you remember she was your aunt? The ball hit Lin Zijin right in the face. He fell to the ground. She cried, covering her face. Bai Wanzi hurried out to stop her. Calm down, calm down, calm down. Directly killing someone will result in system punishment. Mu Jiuxi calmed her rage, telling herself, now is not the time to deal with the Lin family. Patience is key to catching a big fish. What's going on? A familiar voice sounded from behind. Mu Jiuxi didn't even need to look. He knew who was behind him. He silently clenched his fist. Lin Zijin saw his father crying and complaining to Lin Yushan, asking him to do justice for him. Lin Yushan, in order to please Mu Zizi, he showed no mercy to his own daughter. He scolded her with a stern face, telling Lin Zijing not to embarrass both families here. Then he turned around, patted Jiuxi's head, comforted him for a while, and prepared to have a servant take him back to rest. Jiuxi unceremoniously said, my maidservants obey only you. Uncle, you're really putting on airs. No wonder my cousin dared to bully you here. So it's something she learned from uncle. Lin Yu froze for a moment. He thought to himself, what's wrong with this little girl? She's much more formidable than before. Before, she only matched my scheming. This attitude is not good for the Lin family. She thinks Mu Jiuxi is still upset about having a son. Lin Ziqing quickly comforted her and sent her back, and then scolded Lin Ziqing. Let Jiuxi rest well first. While she was at Lingyu Mountain, planning to slip away, a sound of horses' hooves approached. Uncle, where are you going? So it was Jiuxi's older brother, Mu Yanga, and second brother, Mu Hongwen. Mu Hongwen wouldn't let Ling Yushan off easily. He pretended to warmly invite Ling Yushan into the mansion. Ling Yushan smiled wryly and agreed. Secretly, he called out to Hong Mu. It seems there's trouble today. Just as the older brother was inviting Ling Yushan into the mansion, Mu Hongwen turned to look at his younger sister. Jiuxi, who usually teases and is particularly close to Lin Yushan, is planning something again. Mu Jiuxi hugged her brother. I didn't mean to play tricks. Mu Hongwen, seeing his sister being so affectionate towards him for the first time, immediately started crying. Jiuxi continued to confess to her brother, saying she no longer liked Lin Ziqian. I won't do those shameful things that disgrace the Mu family again. Mu Hongwen openly disliked Jiuxi. He silently sighed. Facing his only younger sister acting coquettish in his arms, he could only dote on her. He could only spoil her. Was the meeting with Ling Yushan a terrifying ambush he feared? What exactly happened? This girl, who wasn't close to her family, upon seeing her father and brother, immediately rushed over and hugged them tightly. His name is Mu Zuz, a villain from a past life, by ill fortune, caused his whole family to suffer. After traversing 5,000 planes of existence, Hong Sheng returned to his childhood. Seeing my family, I was overwhelmed with excitement. Naturally, I hugged everyone I saw. Of course, just being close to my family wasn't enough. My top priority now was to break off the engagement with that wolf-like cousin. Meanwhile, Lin Yushan felt extremely uneasy at the banquet. His two older brothers, Jiu and Si, were seated on either side of him. His eldest brother, Mu Yang, was the first to attack. He produced a summons from behind his back. It was for Lin Yu. Lin Ziqian, Lin Yushan's son, had been frequenting brothels, and running up debts, even resorting to violence. He was brought before the magistrate. Luckily, the shepherd intercepted the summons. Otherwise, Lin Ziqian would have been imprisoned for several years. Then, the elder brother produced a divorce agreement. Uncle, just sign here. Then we'll step in and help our cousin with this matter. How could Lin Yushan let go of the Mu family, such a big fish? He immediately turned hostile. You're pushing me too far. I won't sign this time. The engagement was decided by our elders. What right do you younger generation have to speak? I want to see your family's matriarch. Who wants to see this old woman? Lin Yushan turned his head to look. The old lady was being supported by two maidservants, waiting. He quickly bowed his hands in a gesture of respect. He explained that marriage is not a child's play. How can one just withdraw from it? The old lady leaned forward and lovingly touched Jiuxi's neck. Whether to withdraw or not depends on Jiuxi's meaning. He solemnly asked his granddaughter, Nan Nan, do you want to withdraw from this marriage? Jiuxi answered. Lin Yushan quickly said, Nana, don't you like your cousin Ziqian the most? If he's imprisoned, or if uncle signs this, then you can't marry him. Fu Jiuxi wasn't willing to look at this little shadow anymore. You still want to deceive me at this time? Do you really think I'm still the fool I was in my past life? He said without hesitation. Yes. Lin Yushan was furious upon hearing this. He rushed over to try and persuade Jiuxi again. But Mu Hongwen stopped her. At this moment, Mu Hongwen secretly rejoiced. Luckily, Jiuxi voluntarily gave up. Lin Ziqian was never worthy of marrying into the Mu family. It was only because Jiuxi was so fond of Lin Ziqian that they decided on him. Jiuxi threw herself into her grandmother's arms. She told her grandmother how badly the father and son had treated her. Her grandmother quickly comforted her, saying, There, don't marry. We won't marry. Then she glanced sideways at Lin Yushan. What are you waiting for? Sign it. Lin Yushan was filled with resentment. He resented his son's incompetence, and even more, the Mu family's scheme, to destroy the citizens and benefit themselves. Driven to it, he signed the divorce agreement twice. Instead, he left resentfully. Jiuxi watched Lin Yushan's departing back, silently worried in her heart. In the past life, the Mu family was so good to them, yet they still didn't have a good ending. Now they've fallen out. I'm afraid they'll plot against the Mu family even more desperately. It seems that besides investigating who's behind them, we also need to find a powerful backer for the Mu family. Mu Jiuxi wants to find a backer. But who could it be? We'll reveal that in the next episode. The girl, reborn and having let go of her hatred, hosts a banquet for her former enemies. All for the sake of canceling her engagement with her wolfish cousin. After Uncle Lin Yushan signed the annulment agreement and left in anger, Mu Jiuxi knew that this villain would only plot against the Mu family even more meticulously in the future. The only way now is to find a powerful backer for the family. Midnight, inside the Xiaoyao, Prince Xiaoyao's mansion, a small figure opened the door to Su Zhuanbei's bedroom, only to find the room empty. She didn't get to see the handsome man. I felt so disappointed in myself at that moment. The system secretly warned the host that their thoughts were improper. Warning. Warning. Mu Jiuxi, whose secret thoughts had been revealed, covered her head. I was just thinking. A voice came from behind Miss Mu. Mu Jiuxi jumped in surprise. She pretended to be calm, hopped onto a stool, and crossed her legs. At this moment, in her own imagination, she pictured herself as a big sister-like figure. Actually, it can't be said that she lacked any aesthetic sense. It's just that it didn't match her forceful demeanor at all. Su Zhuanbei looked at this little girl who was pretending to be calm, and chuckled softly. Miss Mu, how did you end up in this prince's room? Mu Jiuxi hugged her arms. I'm here to see you, seriously. Naturally, in your room. Su Zhuanbei also sat down beside them. He asked with interest, Miss Mu, what brings you to this king's chambers at this late hour? Jiuxi slammed the table. I'm here to tell you, the engagement is off. You can come to my house and propose marriage now. Facing this audacious little girl, Su Zhuanbei couldn't help but laugh. Do you know how old I am? Your father would absolutely not agree. Jiuxi put her hands on her hips, saying that age and such are unimportant. As long as the prince is good to me, Father won't mind either. He prepared to retort, then why me? Because you're handsome. The little girl said this without the slightest hesitation. You must be prepared, and not be seduced by flowery words. He continued to ask, then why should this king marry you? If it's like this king would have to wait several more years for you. Why not just take one who is already grown? Mujio patted his chest and continued to deceive. I am useful to you. I will be of great help to you. What's more, I grow very quickly. As long as you give me delicious food. In 2 years, I'll grow up. Su Zhubei chuckled secretly. This little girl is getting more and more interesting. She asked Jiao Si what she could do for her. Jiao Si was instantly excited. She changed her expression. He claims he can tell fortunes. He says he can help the prince avoid a destined disaster. Then he picks up a hidden sword, and uses it to gesture and analyze the current court situation on the table. The flood in Huangzhou is severe right now. Only by sending someone who represents the imperial family can they appease the people. This task will fall to the prince. But your highness, this trip might result in a broken leg. The prince was secretly startled. His imperial brother had just spoken to him this morning. Indeed, he intended for him to go to Huangzhou. How did you know about this? Jiao Si knows. If I honestly said I was reborn, his highness would certainly not believe me. So he started being mysterious again. Forget it. Su Zhuanbei saw through him at a glance. Jiao Si wasn't planning on telling the truth. He could only follow his lead and ask about the method to avert the disaster. Jiao Si, with a mysterious air, asked the prince to come closer. But after the unsuspecting Su Zhuanbei approached, he suddenly took a candied fruit and stuffed it into his mouth. Tell him the solution is to propose marriage to his family. Su Zhuanbei, however, merely regarded Mu Jusi as a little girl joking around. He didn't take it seriously. Jusi couldn't care less about propriety and shame. She threw herself into Su Zhuanbei's arms. The prince is gentle and handsome. Whoever regrets it is a fool. Having eaten my candied fruit, you can't go back on your word. The prince gently pushed away the little rascal who was trying to weasel out of it. I'll take you back first. Jiao Si eagerly insisted that she was telling the truth. The prince touched Jiao Si's soft hair. He said seriously, I believe you. But matters of the court are not something a little girl like you can influence. Let's end this matter here. Don't mention it again. After saying this, he picked up Jusi, covering his small body with a cloak. He instructed the servants not to spread tonight's events. Jusi felt very depressed at this moment. Why doesn't he believe me? However, this also ignited his desire to conquer. He supported himself on Su Zhuanbei's shoulder. You've caught my attention. I intend to marry you. This little girl snuck into the prince's bedroom late at night to ask him to propose to her family. Mu Jiaoxi, reborn into her childhood, facing her family's former enemy, who had schemed against them. Her solution was to cling to the powerful prince Su Zhuanbei. Although she herself proposed that Shui Zhuanbei come to her house to propose marriage, the request was temporarily rejected by him. This ignited Mu Jusi's desire to conquer. She secretly vowed that she would marry Li Qing. The noise of rats in the woods continued throughout the night. It turned out that Lin Ziqian's creditors had come to collect their debts. The creditor produced the IOU. It clearly stated 200,000 taels of silver. Either the Lin family repays the debt now, or Lin Ziqian will be arrested. Lin Ziqian panicked upon hearing this. He clearly only owed 20,000 taels. Someone must be framing him. He hastily said he could find Lu Jusi. He would definitely help him. Help who? Lin Yuswan angrily clutched the set of annulment agreements. Only then did he understand. It was all the Mu family's scheme. A hangmen banquet, to stall for time and forge IOUs. But the sudden annulment. At this time, Mu Jiaoxi was watching everything that happened to Lin Yuswan through a projection. Seeing Lin Yuswan's furious expression, he couldn't help but worry that the Lin family would act like mad dogs, biting indiscriminately. Suddenly, the candle by the window went out. A loud pop came from outside the door. Bai Wanzi immediately became alert. Host, there's something unusual outside the door. Has the situation arrived so quickly? Jiaoxi lifted her skirt. Carefully, she jumped out of the window. Let's see what's going on. A slender figure appeared on the shogunate's wall at this time. It was Prince Xiaoyao. He had originally come to discuss matters with Mu Yuanzhang. He had unknowingly walked to the 9 temples. He stood on the wall. He saw several shadowy figures outside the 9 temples plotting something. Lin Zijin, outside the gate, impatiently asked, why haven't you moved? Are there not enough snakes released? You two are useless. Did you mess it up? One of the maids held up her empty basket, showing that she had already released enough. A whole basketful, all released into Jusi's room. There's no way he can escape. Lin Zijing finally felt relieved. She smugly crossed her arms. That bitch Jiaoxi publicly humiliated me, and disgraced my father and brother. Even releasing venomous snakes on her would be too merciful. Hey, had enough of a show? A voice from behind startled the group at the doorway. It's actually Mu Jiaoxi. Lin Zijin asked anxiously, how are you here? Shouldn't you be inside? Jiu-si looked calm. Lin Zijin, you've always liked to cling to me since you were little. And oppose me. I originally thought you liked me. Lin Zijin was instantly enraged. He shouted loudly at Mu Jiu-si. Have you no shame? Absolutely not. A maidservant nearby hurriedly tried to dissuade him. She suggested they leave quickly before they alerted the guards. But Mu Jiu-si wouldn't let them off so easily. He continued to provoke them, calling Lin Zijing a coward. Do you have the guts to release the snake? He didn't have the guts to stay. Lin Zijing was always someone who cared about face. How could he stand such humiliation? He lunged at Mu Jiu-si. Mu Jiu-si, I'll tear your mouth apart. Mu Jiu-si nimbly dodged him. Lin Zijing instantly fell to the ground. He had really lost face today. Lin Zijin simply sat on the ground and cried. Xue Zunbai saw everything. He originally thought this little girl could handle it. It seems he worried for nothing. Someone approached, carrying a lantern. It was Mu Jiu-si's mother and George. Lin Zijin saw her aunt. She immediately started complaining, playing the victim. He said that Mu Jiu-si pushed him. Jiu-si instantly turned on the dramatic act. He pretended to be scared. He told his mother that Lin Zijin put a snake in his room. Lin Xiaoji heard this, and immediately sent someone to check. She hugged her daughter, who looked dramatic, and softly comforted her. Lin Zijin wanted to argue further. The guards behind you have already carried out a bag of snakes. Lin Xiaoji turned and glared sternly at Lin Zijing. At such a young age, you are so cruel and ruthless. Someone, summon the head of the Lin family and the second master. This is the most vicious girl I have ever seen. Because her cousin did not tolerate her public provocation. And she lost face. She had a whole basket of poisonous snakes put into her room. Luckily, Mu Jiu-si had noticed early on. Mother also arrived in time. Lin Xiaoji saw that her niece was so ruthless. She had to send someone to invite the first and second masters of the Lin family. Lin Zijing panicked immediately. His eldest uncle was known for his integrity. If he found out, he would be in trouble. Lin Xiao disregarded Lin Zijin's pleas. First, he gently returned Mu Jiu-si to the tomb. He turned around. He thought to himself that the Lin Yushan family had been too lenient towards them before. It was time to let them know his status. Xue Zunbai on the wall, seeing the matter resolved smoothly, was finally relieved. The next day, while Jiu-si was sleeping and drool was flying down, a Jian hurriedly woke Jiu-si up. It turned out that today was Jiu-si's birthday banquet. Jiu-si's father, the general, had rushed back for 3 nights. He returned home before dawn. He is now entertaining Clang. Jiu-si sprang up from the bed. Father's back. Axie nodded. Yes, the young masters have all returned. They're just waiting for the young lady. Jiu-si wiped her face. While asking about the neighbor's actions last night, Axie continued to chatter, saying that last night Madame flew into a rage, and rebuked them in court, forgive second master Lin Yushan, and issued a harsh order forbidding his entire family from ever closing their doors again. Grandfather was very angry. It's estimated that Lin Yushan and Lin Zijing, upon returning, would ultimately be very confused by this news. Jiu-si expressed great confusion. He stretched, yawning, regretting that his mother missed such a glorious moment. I was actually in pain. After washing up, he took Akian and prepared to go. As the criminal police had instructed them, the two walked in the courtyard. Suddenly, they heard voices coming from behind Jiashan. He turned his head to look. It was actually his father and the Prince Xiaoyao. Jiu-si's mind raced. He told Axie to wait for him there. He said he'd be right back. Meanwhile, the general and the Prince Xiaoyao continued their conversation. The general looked worried. Originally, His Majesty had assigned the third prince to Huangzhou to manage the flood control, but for some reason, the plan changed at the last minute. It was unexpectedly changed. Prince Xiaoyao was sent instead. He worried that it was someone secretly manipulating things from behind, and that it had something to do with the third prince. King Xiaoyao wasn't too worried, though. For him and the emperor, whoever went would win. The goal was simply peace. But he also understood that someone was scheming to get him to go. He guessed that what they wanted wasn't peace. He told the general that a wise person had warned him of an impending leg injury on this trip. He was careful and cautious. He just sat by the carriage door and didn't worry. He specially came to tell the general, to prevent him from worrying. Jiu-si hid behind the artificial rock and, ultimately, he still had to set off for Hangzhou. Bai Wanzi's cultivation has flaws again. What should I do? What should I do? Your husband doesn't listen to advice. If he's this difficult, just get rid of him. Host, find a new one. Jiu-si watched as Bai Wanzi, who kept giving bad ideas, threatened him and said he would replace him. Find a new one. The clever Bai Wanzi silently shut up. Hugging my little angel, Yuan Gun Gun. Mu Jiu-si made a decisive decision. He decided to go to the palace with Xue Zhuanbei. He left immediately. He quickly packed his bags. He found an abandoned haunted house in a corner of the courtyard. With great effort, he finally emerged from the haunted house. He rubbed his arm. It seems this birthday banquet is a bust. This girl is really going all out. As the eldest daughter of the esteemed general's mansion, to cling to the powerful Prince Xiaoyao, she actually snuck out through a dog hole. Having successfully left the mansion, Mu Jusi quickly found Su Juanbei's carriage. She lay under the carriage, dejectedly thinking, Su Juanbei definitely won't agree to take me. Huang Zhong could only follow secretly. Jusi, recognizing the situation, took advantage of the guard's inattention, and stealthily climbed onto the carriage. He lifted the carriage seat. Usually, the space under the seat is hollow. I'll hide here. Just as he was about to squeeze in, a shout of Wang came from outside. It turned out that Su Juanbei had left the shogunate. He hesitated for a moment before getting into the carriage. He seemed to hear a noise inside the carriage. He lifted the curtain to take a look. It was empty. The guard also explained. He had carefully checked the carriage. There was nothing wrong. Xue Jun silently pondered to the north. He probably thought too much. Then he got into the car. At this time, Jiuxi's small body was sitting under the bench. Bai Wanzi appeared quietly. Host, you don't like being in cramped, dark places, right? You're going to such lengths for him. Jiuxi puffed up her cheeks in anger. I didn't do it for him. I did it for the Mu family. Suddenly, he remembered something. He immediately instructed Bai Wanzi to find out where Lingyu Mountain is, to see if this little person is up to no good. Bai Wanzi cried. My abilities have been weakened. Unable to locate target. Jiuxi snatched the useless ball that always fails at crucial moments, looking exasperated. What good are you? Looks like I'll have to find a way to repair the system first. Bai Wanzi's eyes lit up instantly. Host, you have a solution. Jiuxi tossed the white dumpling aside. Let's wait until he returns from Huangzhou to discuss this. He silently hugged his knees. No matter what, I must protect the wooden framework. I will find the person behind this. Suddenly, the horse pulling the cart was startled. Its front hooves, dilated pupils. Jiuxi also woke up in a violent tremor. He heard the clash of swords outside. He immediately had Bai Wanzi transmit the scene outside. Entering, he saw outside the carriage. Xue Zunbai was fighting with a group of assassins. It hasn't been long since leaving the capital, and someone is already trying to assassinate him. It seems Xue Zunbai's broken leg was no accident, but it's man-made. Jusi asked Bai Wanzi to open the map. Dingguan saw the map. Jusi only then discovered that they were actually taking the most rugged and dangerous northern route to Huangzhou. Why did they choose this place? Bai Wanzi was already eager to start, looking eager to try. Host, your husband and the others are about to collapse. We're just watching this. Jiu's, however, is arms crossed, with a calm expression. Are we preparing to fish? How could the husband I chose be failing? Maruko exclaims, how cunning. So cunning. Jusi crossed his legs. You don't understand. This is called strategy. Besides, he was speaking excitedly. Suddenly looked up and bumped his head on the wooden board. It's over, he's going to be discovered. Then the wooden board was suddenly lifted. Jiuxi holds his head, preparing to explain to Su. Then he looked. It was actually an assassin. Xue Zunbai, who was still fighting, glanced over. He was startled. He saw the assassin emerging from the carriage, holding Mu Jiuxi. Xue Zunbai raised his sword. He angrily shouted, let him go. The assassin laughed scornfully. The prince is already trapped like a turtle in a jar. He still has the heart to worry about others. He leered at Jiuxi, looking like he had ulterior motives. Suddenly, Su Zunbei's right eye emitted a green light. His gaze filled with killing intent. The assassin was startled. Before I could dodge, I involuntarily fell. I loosened my grip on Jiuxi's hand. Xue Zunbai leaped forward, drawing his sword in one swift motion. He steadily caught Jiuxi in his arms. Jiuxi, still shaken, hugged him, angrily saying, if you'd been 1 second later, you're going to be a bachelor. Xue Zunbai looked at the little girl with heartache. General Liu, a lonely man, actually sneaked out for an adventure. I really don't know what to do with him. The girl in his arms, 94, was surprised to find Xue Zunbei's right eye glowing green. What's wrong with his eye? This girl is so unlucky, to follow the husband she has chosen. Going to Huangzhou, crawling through dog holes, hiding under the carriage bench. That's nothing. But I ran into assassins right after leaving the city. Just as the assassins were demanding Mu Jiuxi's life from Su Zunbai. Su Zunbei's eyes widened in anger. A green light flashed in his right eye, instantly subduing the assassins, and arranged for guards to bind the assassin and keep watch over him. Jiuxi was also steadily held by Xue Zunbai. He carefully returned Jiuxi to the carriage. Jiuxi looked at his now normal right eye, puzzled. Could it be that she had seen wrongly? After settling Jiuxi, Xue Zunbai came to the outside of the carriage, and he then turned to the assassin who had just held Mu Jiuxi hostage. He will be cut into 5 pieces. Recalling the scene just now, Su Jun felt it wasn't enough. He added, throw him to the dogs. Jiao watched secretly from the side. Secretly pleased in her heart. He was worried. He was anxious and upset. He needed to prepare to turn and look at Mu Jiao. He quickly sat back in his original position. He pretended nothing had happened. He approached the carriage. Whoosh whoosh. How did you follow me? Jiao looked guilty at this moment. He coughed twice. Then he put on a righteous air. Someone doesn't believe me. I can only come and help him avert disaster. Saying this, he was inwardly contradicting himself. Where can one find such a thoughtful person? Su Zhubei looked at this little girl. It seems he heard everything I said to Zhu Yuanzhang in the courtyard. He solemnly stated that the Huangzhou trip wasn't a sightseeing tour, so he sent someone to return the wine. Who knew this little girl was so stubborn? She crossed her arms, her face a picture of defiance. Since I'm already here, he wouldn't go back. Su Zhubei knew he couldn't persuade Mu Jiao. He tried his best to persuade Jiao to be obedient, to obediently go back and wait for her. Taking advantage of her inattention, he would pick her up and forcibly send her back. At that moment, he suddenly heard someone shouting that the river embankment had burst. Run! The yellow river has broken its banks. Zhuzhanbai was startled. He held Mu Jiao and started to run. While running, he guided the others fleeing in all directions to run uphill to higher ground. Mu Jiao leaned on Zhuzhanbai's shoulder and looked back. Behind them, the yellow river roared and surged forward. Zhuzhanbai ran as fast as he could. While asking Jiao in his arms if he's scared, he says, if we run out of this yellow river water, we'll perish here. Do you regret following me now? Jiao shakes his head. If you were scared, you wouldn't have come with me in the first place, he says. While directing Bai Wanzi to prepare for the Pemaxi performance, he points at Shuezhuanbei with his finger. Shuezhuanbei, I'm telling you, you'll regret this. You will definitely regret not meeting me sooner. But it's fine now. To see someone at this point, still completely unfazed, a truly remarkable man. Shuezhuanbei is even more curious about him. Yuanzhang, how did you raise him? To cultivate such an unperturbed heart. While they were talking, Bai Wan quietly reminded them, interrupting their heartfelt interaction. The system's energy is too low. Forcibly activating the screen will deplete the energy. The host will also be scorned. Do you really want to activate it? Jiao said firmly, don't. Nonsense. Activate. They say pursuing a woman is like climbing a mountain, but pursuing a man is like a thin veil. This girl, already forced by assassins to cling to a powerful man, now encounters a yellow river flood. She's risking her life just to survive. As if that weren't enough, Mu Jiao is reborn, and the system's cheat codes malfunction. Activating the screensaver system will cause the host to suffer backlash. But in this critical situation, 94 still unhesitatingly chose to activate the system, just as the surging yellow river water was about to hit them. Su Zhubei, holding 94, used a carp leap to get them to a cave entrance on the mountaintop. Su Zhubei carefully put 94 down. They looked outside. The roaring floodwaters were almost overflowing into the cave. Just as Jiao was about to reach out and stop Su Zhuanbei, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his chest. He fell to his knees. System prompt, energy consumed 40%. Host has sustained 20% injury. Should the screensaver system be paused? Another, even more violent wave of floodwater crashed in from outside. Everyone watched the huge wave about to engulf everything. Despair was etched on everyone's face. Jiao firmly said again, keep adding energy stones. Strengthen the protective barrier system. He was injured. Blood already trickling from the corner of his mouth. But he still stubbornly persisted. Because he knew that giving up now meant dooming everyone's hopes. As the energy stones continued to be added, the shield system finally came online, successfully blocking the wave from outside. The rapid energy consumption caused Jiao body to collapse. Just as the system officially started, a mouthful of blood spurted out. After he managed to stand with great effort, he wiped his mouth with his hand. I'll wait for this to blow over. But you'd better think carefully about how to compensate me. Then, as if he had made up his mind, he said fiercely, activate defense and attack hybrid mode. Bai Wanzi quickly popped out. Host, you've gone mad. The energy damage is too great. Your current body simply can't handle it. You'll lose your life. Jiao expression was resolute at this moment. When did my life ever become your decision? Activate it. As the hybrid mode system activated, the flood outside receded rapidly. Everyone present watched this miraculous scene. Someone shouted, Your Highness, blessings from heaven. The mountain god has come to trick you. Everyone knelt down. They thanked the prince and the benevolent mountain god for their protection. No one noticed Mu Jiao behind them. But Su Zhuanbei knew things weren't that simple. He looked back. Mu Jiao, not far away, was emitting a blue light all over her body. He wondered what on earth this little girl had done. Mu Jiao's energy was completely depleted. She fell, eyes closed. At this time, the general's mansion was also in chaos. Akian cried heartbrokenly. While crying, she told the old lady that after the young lady saw the general and the prince in the garden, she subdued the maidservant. The maidservant truly didn't know the young lady wanted to follow the prince to the palace. He turned to ask Lao Hu and Chui Mama beside him, the young lady will be alright, right? Seeing Akian so worried, Chui Mama patted Akian's shoulder and comforted her. Several young masters have already passed away. It's just that the news has only just arrived. Walk to the Wan port. The Yellow River levee has broken. I only hope the girl's words bring good fortune to the world. The old woman looked worried. This matter must not be spread. If it gets out, Nanan's reputation will be ruined. Let those mischievous monkeys follow the route to search. We must find Nana. Nana, you must be safe. The usually clingy benefactor unexpectedly. What's it like to be waited on and fed medicine at his bedside? If it were the old Mujang's, he'd be overjoyed, a lucky charm to his wife. Unfortunately, now he's lying in bed, unresponsive. After the Yellow River breached its banks, everyone was trapped. Jios repelled the floodwaters single-handedly, but he himself fell into a coma. His energy completely depleted. Be careful, help him up. Feed him the medicine slowly. At this time, Mu Jiusi, in a state of wandering soul, could only watch from the sidelines. He felt quite helpless. He asked the white dumpling beside him, how much longer will I be in this oily, red state? I've been unconscious for so long. People must be worried sick. The white dumpling immediately gave Mu Jiusi a wave of analysis. Because Jiusi's body suffered severe injuries, it cannot withstand. If we can just repair it to 30%, we can activate the healing system, and he'll be able to return to his own body. Jiusi propped up her chin with her hand, recalling today's events. Clearly, I was incredibly dangerous back then, but in Su Juanbei's arms, I felt completely at ease. Bai Wanzi approached the host with a mischievous look. I think even if it weren't for the torrential rain, I wouldn't marry him. Don't you think so? Jios threw him away. You're a product virtually created by the system. What do you think? You should absolutely get the system repaired immediately. Then he continued to stare straight at Shui Juanbei, whose face was full of worry. Look at my husband, he's so worried. In a daze, he gently pressed his forehead against Shui Juanbei's. Cheer up. Otherwise, I'll be heartbroken. Although it was late at night in the palace, Mu Yuanzhang also arrived at the main hall by imperial order. He looked up and saw that all the court officials had been summoned to the palace in the middle of the night. It seems something big has happened. The emperor put down the scroll in his hand. With a worried look, he said to Mu Yuanzhang, a flash flood has occurred in Huangzhou. I want you to lead people there to rebuild the dam. Mu Yuanzhang thought to himself, how? Nan followed the prince to Hangzhou. This is a good opportunity for me to go and get him. He was about to agree. The chancellor suddenly spoke up. He mentioned that the Empress Dowager's birthday was approaching, and that with envoys from various countries arriving to pay tribute, General Mu needed to command the advanced training and the military review ceremony. Immediately, he recommended Lin Yushan, the bow and step attendant, because Lin Yushan had lived in Hangzhou since childhood and was very familiar with the local area. Mu Yuanzhang wanted to try to persuade him otherwise. The emperor waved his hand dismissively. Then, let's follow the Grand Minister's suggestion. Send Lingyun Mountain there. Zhuang, the Grand Minister, looked helpless. He could only silently obey the order. But in his heart, he reassured the Nine Temples party's worries. An hour later, the Grand Minister's residence was unusually quiet. The Chancellor pushed aside the room's screen. Suddenly, the candle in the room flickered. A figure flashed from behind the screen. The Chancellor didn't turn around. He said to Lan Ren, you acted too rashly in this matter. If His Majesty really sends Mu Yanzhang, he and Shuizhun will join forces in the north. They'll quickly find out it was you. But Lan Ren is fearless. With the Chancellor here, what is there to fear? Especially this time, even heaven seems to be helping the northern expedition. The natural disaster. Even if they investigate, they won't find me culpable. The Chancellor's tone was slightly displeased. What about the assassin? Can't you find out anything? Those who do great things must remain calm. You're practically handing your enemy a weapon. The person instantly panicked. What do we do now? The most urgent thing is to confirm whether Su Juanbin is really dead. If so, everything will be fine. If he hadn't died, his eyes would have been full of murderous intent. His face would have been written with vengeance. Then we'll find a way to keep him from returning. Good heavens. Could it be that the mastermind thief that Mu Jiusi has been trying so hard to catch is this? 1 man below, 10,000 men above dynasty, 2 hits. What kind of miraculous constitution is this? Even though his own wandering soul was still healthy and lively nearby, the physician took his pulse, and with a grave expression, instructed those around him to make preparations as soon as possible. After Mu Jiusi in his past life had exhausted all his energy repelling the flood, he had been in a coma ever since. He, having been reborn with cheats. naturally had a constitution different from ordinary people. The physician diagnosed him as being near death. It was just a system maintenance. However, Xue Zhubei didn't know about this. The doctor had just finished speaking, when Xue Zhubei immediately grabbed his collar and angrily said, "He still has a pulse. How could he not wake up? Treat him properly." Bai Wanzi on the side looked surprised. "Host, the prince is so mighty, like he's about to eat someone." Jiu-Si was smug, saying, "I'm his future wife anyway, shouldn't that be the case?" After venting his anger, Xue Zunbai didn't let anyone else leave. Everyone had never seen the prince so furious. The prince, hearing they could leave, everyone was relieved. They hurriedly retreated. Xue Zunbai looked at Jiu-Si, who was still unconscious, with heartache. "Little girl, you said you wanted me to propose marriage. You must hold on. How can I go if you don't wake up?" Hearing this, Bai Wanzi was even more excited than Jiu-Si. "Host," he agreed. Jiu-Si's face lit up. "I have ears." She silently hoped the treatment would be faster. Faster. Suddenly, a commotion came from outside. "Get him out." For some reason, a large group of villagers appeared at the door. Each of them carried weapons. They looked menacing. They shouted that the baby girl would bring bad luck. She must be buried. Su Juanbei came out hearing the commotion. The guards quickly explained to him that the villagers had heard from somewhere that Mujio had fallen into a coma. They said leaving her alone would lead to a plague. Su Juanbei looked serious. "I told them." Before he could speak, a slipper flew directly at him. Everyone angrily demanded that he hand over Mujusi. Mujusi's wandering soul anxiously waited on the sidelines, but he was helpless to return to his own body. Seeing this, the guards were about to use Su Juanbei's identity to assert their authority, but Su Juanbei stopped them. They were all innocent people who had suffered from the flood. They were only scared by the disaster and went back home. Jiu-Si watched, exasperated by Xue Zunbai's foolishness. "You big fool. What's the point of reasoning with commoners?" As the people's anger grew, rotten eggs and decaying leaves rained down on Xue Zunbai. Some even started throwing stones. Xue Zunbai was hit on the forehead, and blood started to flow. But even so, Su Zhubei's expression remained firm. He resolutely declared he wouldn't hand over Jiu-Si. Seeing Su Zhubei stubbornly defending himself, Jiu-Si felt immense heartache. He asked Bai Wanzi how much longer he had. It was estimated to be 24 hours. Jiu-Si immediately ordered the mobilization of all energy. "I need to wake up immediately." Bai Wanzi prevented it. "My lifespan would be greatly reduced this way." Jiu-Si doesn't have time to consider that anymore. 24 hours is too long. Xue Zhuanbei simply can't hold on. He needs to act immediately. Even Bai Wanzi is frantic. "It won't do. I won't allow you to hide like this. I went through so much trouble to travel 5,000 years. Now I'm going to hurt myself again for him. Have you forgotten your purpose?" Thinking of the purpose of my rebirth, Jiu-Si hesitated. "On one hand, there's the man I've painstakingly protected. On the other, there's my revenge plan. How will he choose?" What exactly happened? These villagers were filled with hatred for the young man before them. Rotten eggs, rotten vegetables. They even threw stones at him. What's even more infuriating is, the young man didn't fight back against the villagers' attacks. It turned out the villagers learned that Mujio-si was dying, afraid of causing a plague. They angrily said they would bury him. Su Juanbei, however, preferred to bear the villagers' anger alone, rather than hand him over. Jusi Yuhan, standing beside him, was extremely anxious. His cheat system, which he had gained upon rebirth, was still under repair, and he couldn't wake up immediately. The atmosphere was tense. A little boy shouted that he wasn't dead. "I saw him on a furious horse last night. He's not dead." Xue Zhubei said, his face full of urgency. "Is that true?" The boy ignored Xue Zhubei. He walked out of the crowd, turning to the villagers. "Are you really going to bury a living man?" Everyone exchanged glances. They whispered amongst themselves, "Out of respect for Xiao Hu, we'll give you one more day. If he still hasn't woken up tomorrow, don't blame us for being ruthless." After the villagers left, Xue Zhuanbei knelt down and anxiously asked Xiao Hu, "Did you really see him move?" Xiao Hu's eyes were shifty. "I just felt that he wasn't dead yet. We can't let them do this." Su Zhubei, who had been full of hope, was instantly filled with disappointment again. Yu Hunjiu-si looked at him, his heart filled with heartache. I never thought he'd care so much about himself. Another day passed. A guard brought in food. He saw Su Zhuanbei still guarding Jiu-si's bed, just as he had been yesterday. Su Zhuanbei saw the food in the guard's hands. He said he wasn't hungry. He told him to take it back. After all, this food was saved with great difficulty by the villagers. The guard could no longer hold back. "Your Highness, you haven't eaten anything all day." He still resolutely shook his head. Once, watching from the side, "Xue Zhuanbei, you can't go on like this. You'll ruin your health. Luckily, the repair time is almost up. Sure enough, you just can't do without me." Xue Zhuanbei, who hadn't closed his eyes for a day and a night, was now closing his eyes to rest. Suddenly, he heard someone calling him. He suddenly opened his eyes. He actually saw Jiusi sitting up. He looked at everything before him in surprise, unable to believe it was real. Jiusi lunged at him, and I woke up. Are you happy? Xue Zhuanbei hurriedly wanted to find a doctor. Jiusi grabbed his hand, preventing him from finding any doctor. I just took a nap. Then he asked with a smile, you were worried about me, weren't you? Xue Zhuanbei saw Jiusi, lively and bouncing before him, but his eyes held a few more serious expressions. Jiusi looked guilty under his gaze. He clung to Su Zhuanbei's arm, not daring to look at him again. But Su Zhuanbei pushed him away. Shouldn't you give me an explanation? 9 times you deliberately interrupted. What explanation? I was just too scared. I just fainted from fear. You're so fierce. I'm scared, you know. Faced with his insincere explanation, Su Zhuanbei didn't speak. He continued to stare at him. Mu Jiusi crossed his arms. He reverted to his previous uncouth and unreasonable demeanor. Okay, I admit I woke up a long time ago, but I just wanted to see how my future husband would take care of me. Su Zhuanbei's initial worry turned into anger. You still have the mood to joke around? Do you know how worried I was about you? Seeing Su Zhuanbei so worried about her, Jiusi felt full of guilt. She tearfully apologized to Su Zhuanbei. Xue Zhuanbei continued to question the matter of the Yellow River Pavilion's keeper. Shao Si pretended to be clueless. I wouldn't know about that. To divert Xue Zhuanbei's attention, he immediately threw himself into Xue Zhuanbei's embrace, describing how scared he had been. Looking at the truly frightened little girl, Xue Zhuanbei completely lost his confidence. Jiusi, in his arms, suddenly remembered something. He looked up. Zhuanbei, I'm awake now. Shouldn't you keep your promise? Looking at Zhuanbei, who looked puzzled, Jiusi mischievously hinted, you said, as long as I woke up, you'd go to my house to ask for my hand in marriage. Have you ever met a girl with such a thick face? 1 second ago, she was acting cute and spoiled. The next, she had her arms crossed and started acting like a spoiled brat. Her only goal was to trick the prince into proposing at her home. It's because she was reborn. To avenge the annihilation of her entire family in her past life, she had no choice but to cling to the prince as her support. On their journey to Huangzhou to manage the flood with the prince gradually grew fond of this mischievous little girl. While he was unconscious, he even said he would go to his house when he woke up. Jiusi's wandering spirit witnessed all this. So, the first thing he did after waking up was to urgently urge Xue Zhuanbei to fulfill his promise. Xue Zhuanbei started to play dumb at this time. I don't remember anything. Jiusi started to go berserk upon hearing this. He pulled Xue Zhuanbei's sleeve, a dignified prince. This is what he wants. Xue Zhuanbei, pinching Jiusi's puffed cheeks angrily, is playing possum. He started playing possum, imitating him. I did say it, but you didn't wake up at the time. So this promise is naturally invalid. After saying that, he turned and left the room. He told Jiusi to get some rest as he walked away. Jiusi continued to roar behind him, hey, come back. I didn't tell you to wait. It's only this time, why are you making me sleep? Even health enthusiasts don't sleep this early. Su Zhuanbei, who had barely slept for 2 consecutive days at the gate, had just fallen asleep. A guard reported to him. The number of people leaving Huangzhou City is increasing. Su Zhuanbei guessed that the situation in Huangzhou City was not optimistic. Order them to hurry to Hangzhou. The carriage clip-clops along the road. Number 94 starts his performance in the carriage. He sighs and groans, feigning urgency to arrive. The prince doesn't like me. Actually, it's nothing. After saying that, he secretly glances at Su Zhuanbei, finding that the person involved didn't react at all. She continued, since I can't marry the prince, marrying anyone else is just a sham. I might as well go back to Lin Ziqian. Xue Zhuanbei finally spoke. Marriage is not a child's play. You're still young. You'll understand when you're older. It's truly frustrating, she murmured, sighing. Jiusi continued her performance. My husband doesn't believe me. What should I do? At that moment, his eyes fell on the window. He saw a shocking sight. The road was filled with inscriptions. The sheer number of inscriptions astonished Su Zhuan. He immediately ordered his guards to take some people, with rations, to investigate. Seeing the food, all the refugees went crazy, shoving and scrambling for it. Jiusi asked Su Zhuanbei, are all these people from Huangzhou City? Su Zhuanbei answered seriously, they're scared. Jiusi put away his usual flippant expression, his face serious, and continued to ask Su Zhuanbei, can you ensure their reputation remains stable? To prevent the people from suffering displacement and hardship, and to allow everyone to live and work in peace and contentment? Xue Zhuanbei's heart was filled with doubt. Could a little girl really say such things? He solemnly promised Jiusi, I will do everything in my power to protect your reputation and ensure your safety. Then he instructed Jiusi to remain in the car. He lifted the curtain himself. The village grain rations have already been distributed, but there are still many people here who haven't received any. The court approved the disaster relief funds and grain a long time ago. How can there still be so many unregistered people? The guard paused, tearing at something. Then he continued, my subordinate just found out. Zhou Peng used grain mixed with sand. These people all ran away because they couldn't take it anymore. Those corrupt officials. It's simply outrageous. He must be thinking about how to deal with the situation in the north. He said to 94, little girl, we need to change our clothes. What exactly did she go through? The originally lively and cheerful girl started sighing frequently. It turned out to be her. She thought she had already latched onto the powerful Duke Xiaoyao, only to find him playing the same tricks as she did. He refused to admit he had ever mentioned marriage proposals from her family. This left Mu Jiuxi quite helpless. He began a series of performances. Just as he was getting into his act, he discovered that the road outside the carriage was filled with refugees. It turned out that the officials of Huangzhou City, their destination, had embezzled the relief grain. This caused the people to flee in droves. Zhu Hunbai, after some thought, decided to go undercover. Two unexpected guests arrived outside Huangzhou City. Their clothes were ragged. Their faces smeared with dark grime. They silently glanced at Zhu Hunbai's clean clothes, then looked down at their own tattered garments. He instantly went crazy again. Why is your face so clean? I look like a beggar. Xue Zhuanbei touched his worn hat. He suppressed a smile and said, you're handsome. This way you won't attract attention. It's pretty good. This little girl is really easy to please. One compliment and she's completely flattered. Suddenly, a group of soldiers, holding long spears, stopped them. Xue Zhuanbei immediately shielded Jiongxi behind him. He turned to look at a shifty-eyed man, contemptuously regarding them. These two seem to be from a film crew. Take them away. Jiu's just wanted to argue, but Xue Zhuanbei covered his mouth. This was perfect. Let's go and see what's going on at the Hangzhou prefecture. A loud roar from inside the prison. A clang. Suoning Jiuxi angrily slumped against the railing. Xue Zhuanbei behind him looked calm and composed. Behind them was a group of sickly prisoners emanating a foul odor. Suddenly, a hand reached towards Jiuxi. It startled him. He quickly rushed towards Xue Zhuanbei. Then he quietly turned his head. He saw a boy lying in the crowd. Xue Zhuanbei held Jiuxi close. The boy lying on the tattered mat was covered in shocking wounds. He showed no sign of life. Jiuxi jumped down from Su Zhuanbei's arms. He took the boy's hand. Silently, he asked Bai Wanzi if there was any energy left to save him. There's a little bit left, but no buts. Transfer it immediately. Jiuxi closed his eyes and concentrated. A surge of energy flowed from his hand into the boy's body. The boy's complexion gradually became rosy. He was brimming with life again. Xue Zunbai, standing beside him, was once again shocked by Jiuxi's power. Because the little white pill's energy was too weak, overuse would result in backlash. So after Jiuxi transferred the energy, he only felt dizzy and collapsed. Su Zhubei quickly leaped over to catch him. Looking at Jiuxi's weak face, he was filled with worry. At that moment, the boy slowly exhaled, slowly opening his eyes. Everyone else, who thought the boy was already dead, were startled. They cried out, he's alive. The boy looked up at his hands. I didn't die, Jussi said, watching him smugly. You did die. But I brought you back. Then he asked the boy about his personal information. Because during treatment, he saw the boy had memories of Huangzhou Prefecture's yamen. He must know something. Xue Zhuanbei turned away. He didn't bother with that. His heart was filled only with desire. He actually managed to revive him. What secret does this little girl possess? Notice this girl, dressed like a beggar, is closing her eyes and concentrating. He moved his finger. Before his eyes, a lifeless boy instantly came back to life. The memory reading skill, which seemed like some kind of magic trick, left Junbei beside him utterly shocked. After all, he had been reborn with a cheat system. The boy was still surprised that he hadn't died yet. Mu Jiu's already started questioning him. Because he saw his memories while healing him, he guessed the boy must know something. To Jiu's questions, the boy remained silent. He seems to be worried about something. Jiu's, hands on hips, said, if you don't tell us, we'll all die. If you tell us, there might be a chance of survival. Seeing the boy still remain silent, Jiu's continued to persuade, anyway, we've all died once. What's there to be unclear about? The boy was seen clenching his fists. His whole body trembling. He seemed to be battling his inner fears. Finally, he made up his mind. He began to recount his experiences. It turned out that he was the son of a salt merchant from Huangzhou Prefecture. After the Cuihong River flood, his father suggested that Magistrate Zhao Deqin should open the granaries and distribute relief supplies. But to his surprise, Zhao Deqin not only refused, but also embezzled all the disaster relief funds and grain. The boy's father wanted to bring charges against Jizi, but he was murdered on the way. His entire family was also arrested and subjected to brutal torture. The boy's other family members couldn't take it anymore and passed away. Recalling this painful memory again, the boy couldn't help but shed tears. He continued, his voice full of grief and anger, if you really have a way, please bring Zhao Deqin to justice. Give the people of Huangzhou justice. Jusi finished listening, still lost in thought. Unbeknownst to him, others behind him were quietly protesting. Xue Zunbai quickly noticed something was wrong. He immediately picked up Jusi, hurriedly stopping him. Wait, they don't want to hurt me. It turns out that Jiusi, who possesses magical powers, is regarded as a deity by them. At this moment, they all knelt down, begging for their lives. Jiusi, seeing these innocent and devout people placing such trust in him, was deeply moved. He declared righteously that he and Su Juanbei were imperial envoys sent by the court. I came here specifically to be friends. As soon as those words left her mouth, he realized he might have gotten carried away. He turned and quietly asked Su Juanbei, can I say that? Facing this unruly little girl, Su Juanbei could only sigh silently, you little rascal. You said it before asking me. Now it's too late. I can only follow the magistrate's words and admit it. If the people have grievances, they can speak freely. The magistrate will share the burden with the people. We implore your highness to plead for the people and uphold justice, and punish the corrupt officials. Under a clear sky, the people are filled with anxiety. Prince Bei looks upon the suffering people before him. He was filled with self-blame. He always thought the world was rarely resentful, but he never imagined such an unbearable thing would happen. He helped Mu Jiusi up. His heart was heavy. This little girl actually has a heart for the people. Suddenly, someone outside shouted, fire! Fire! The fire came so suddenly. Was it an accident, or deliberate arson related to smuggling? And will they be able to escape the palace? We'll continue sharing in the next episode. This is the most horrific thing I've ever seen. The young man before us is the unemployed son of a local government official. His father wanted to file a lawsuit against corrupt officials. Not only was he beaten to death in the street, but the rest of his family were also imprisoned and tortured to death. Mu Jiusi used the cheat system he brought back with him from his rebirth to save the dying boy. Just as everyone was relieved that the prince would preside over justice for them, suddenly, shouts of fire broke out from outside. Everyone panicked. But they all knew the truth. It wasn't a fire started accidentally. The corrupt officials wanted to kill them and burn the prison down, and they didn't have the keys to unlock the cells. They could only be burned alive. Soon, someone tore at Xue Zunbai's sleeve, making him crouch down. But Xue Zunbai, not understanding, crouched down. Jiusi reached out and pulled the hairpin from his head. The hairpin fell. The King Xiaoyao's flowing hair made him even more handsome. But Mu Jiusi didn't have time to appreciate his beauty at this moment. He picked up the hairpin and fiddled with the door lock. With a click, the lock was actually opened. Everyone quickly rushed out. Xue Zunbei was shocked again. What else? It was this little girl who decided. He scooped up Jiusi, planning to escape with the crowd. But kind Jiusi was unwilling to leave. His heart was with the innocent people in the other cells. With click after click, this grimy little lockpicking expert tugged. Finally finished. He looked at Su Juanben beside him. My heart is filled with emotion. He is a prince. He should have left first. But now he stays to protect his master, opening one prison cell after another. At this time, Bai Wanzi prompted the host. The escape route has been found. Jiusi immediately ordered Xue Zunbai to lead everyone to escape together towards the southeast. Xue Zunbai had long since implicitly trusted Jiusi's abilities. He immediately stopped everyone from heading towards the escape route. Immediately, he picked up Jiusi. While escaping, he carefully protected her. He prevented Jiusi from being bumped into by others. Jiusi looked up at the man who gave her a great sense of security. She reaffirmed her decision. She must marry this man. Prefect Zhao Deqin watched the fire from outside the prison. His subordinate bowed, saying, rest assured, my lord. The fire is intense. Let alone a person. Not even a fly can escape. Zhao Deqin stroked his mustache. It's done. His subordinate whispered in his ear, the matter is settled. The Prime Minister will surely record a great merit for you, and a substantial reward is certain. However, my subordinates still expressed their concerns. After all, it was a prince who died. If the court investigates, how will we compensate? Zhao Deqin smiled. He had already devised a countermeasure for this. We will simply compensate accordingly then. It's Lu Ming's festival. The prince was killed in a fire, a personal tragedy. While the two were still secretly pleased with their wicked scheme, someone rushed in from outside and said, Sir, it's not good. Outside. Before he could finish, a troop of horsemen arrived from outside. It was King Xiaoyao. Zhao Deqin must be prepared to die for his crimes. These days, you're embarrassed to be reborn without 18 martial arts skills. This girl before me can withstand a flood on her own. and open a prison door with her bare hands. If withstanding the flood is due to a system cheat, then opening the lock is definitely a proper skill. Even a locksmith would shake their head in disbelief. The culprit is still secretly rejoicing at their success. Unexpectedly, they found that the King Xiaoyao, whom they believed had been burned to ashes in prison long ago, appeared before them. Zhao Deqin knelt down in the courtroom. He explained that he had been extremely busy dealing with the flood. He hadn't even had time to eat properly. At that moment, he still thought that the reason for his impending punishment was his failure to greet the king promptly. Facing this lying official, Su slammed the table. He angrily rebuked him for embezzlement and perversion of justice. Embezzling disaster relief funds. Emperor Qianlong caused countless people to become refugees. Zhao Deqin continued to defend himself, falsely claiming that the people in the Weeping City had gone to join their families. He even proactively asked the prince to search for evidence, secretly feeling smug. The young man surnamed Chui is also dead, leaving no evidence. What can the Prince of Xiaoyao do to me? Su Zhubei directly threw the cutting board at Ji. To make this corrupt official completely convinced, he instructed the wine steward, who had been hiding to the side, to secretly peek out his head. He gestured to Zhao Deqin with his eyes and feet. Zhao Deqin thought to himself, this appearance and attire are not those of a commoner. He looked wronged. Your Highness, if you are displeased with me, there's no need to bully me with just any little girl. Jiao Si walked over with a smile. Minister Zhao, don't just look at half of things. Take a look behind you. Zhao Deqin looked back. My heart leaped in surprise. Choi Byungrim suddenly appeared in the court. He thought he saw a ghost. He fell to the ground. Aren't you dead? Juzio's face was full of triumph. Yes, I brought him back to life. Then he turned to Xue Junbei and said, the witness has been taken away. Furthermore, witnesses and evidence related to the embezzlement of disaster relief funds have been found in Zhao Deqin's residence. In the face of this irrefutable evidence, Zhao Deqin completely collapsed. At this point, he knew that further words were useless. Su Junbei immediately ordered the criminal's imprisonment, and prepared to open the granaries to distribute grain. Everyone cheered. Bai Tuanzi looked up to Mu Jiao with admiration. Host, hello. Now you've made a name for yourself. Jiao looked unconcerned. I don't want fame, but I will help Su Junbei become famous. Suddenly, he sensed someone behind him. It was Su Junbei. He looked at Jiao thoughtfully. Then he gently touched Jiao head. After the Huangzhou incident subsides, with those skills, I hope to get a reasonable explanation. At this time, the young guard whispered in Su Junbei's ear. Su Junbei listened. He looked hurried. I have urgent business to attend to. I'll be right back. You wait for me obediently. During this eventful journey to Huangzhou, waiting for Su Junbei, will it be another bout of suppressed anger? What will the prince's fate be? Thanks to the combined efforts of Su Huaibei and Mu Jiao, the corrupt official Zhao Deqin, who had been acting wickedly, was finally apprehended. The people at the scene cheered. Because of urgent official business, Su Huaibei left in a hurry after giving Jiao a few instructions. Jiao waited at the yamen, but he didn't see him return. He turned to ask the vigilant guard who had been following him. Where did the young master go? Leave them to protect Xiaojiao. Jiao was anxious. Because in his past life, Su Huaibei's disaster of having no descendants happened in Huangzhou. Now he has no one with him. I'm afraid something will happen. He immediately asked Jing Ji to take him to find Su Huaibei. The carriage they were riding in suddenly stopped. Jiao lifted the curtain and looked. It's actually Ling Yushan. No wonder Su Huaibei wouldn't let me leave. He's worried that Ling Yushan will discover I'm here too. Jiao immediately hid in Jing Ji's cloak, to let him go and ask Ling Yushan about Huaibei's whereabouts. Jing Ji went forward, showing her token. I am a sword-carrying attendant under the command of the Xiaoyao king, she said. I have urgent matters to report to the king. The king is here. Lin Yushan, with an attentive expression, said he was also waiting for the prince. He also told Jing Ji that if she had important matters, she could tell him first. He would see the prince, and report to him. Suddenly, someone came to report that the mountain path was blocked. The prince was trapped in the mountains. Jiao immediately had Bai Wanzi locate Su Huaibei's position. Locating will take 30 seconds. It's too late. Jiao secretly asked Jing Ji to get Su Huaibei's route into the mountain from Ling Yushan. The map they got was actually tampered with by Ling Yushan. Jiao had inquired with the workers. Su Huaibei entered the mountain from the northeast direction, but Ling Yushan marked the southwest direction. Suddenly, Jing Ji's voice cut through the air. Ba Ma listened intently. It turned out that people from Lingyu Mountain were tracking them. At this time, Bai Wanzi had already located the prince's position in North Shuwai. Jiao dismounted without hesitation. He told Jingji to hold off Lingyu Mountain. He would go into the mountains to find the prince himself. I will leave markers for you along the way. Come find me in the mountains after you've dealt with Ling Yushan and the others. Before me are cliffs that soar into the clouds. There are loose rocks and treacherous paths everywhere. Bai Wanzi warned me that it's too dangerous. One wrong step could mean falling to my death. 9 times I grabbed onto the vines that hang down from the snow on the mountaintop. I'll use this one. I'll climb up along the vines. No need for more. His whole body was covered in wounds. Suddenly, he accidentally dragged himself and fell. Luckily, Jiu-Si had tied vines around his waist beforehand. It saved his life at a critical moment. Inside the cave, Su Huaibei, covered in wounds, leaned wearily against a rock. His legs were broken by falling rocks. He could only wait for rescue here. At that moment, he remembered the little girl who had said she suffered from a broken leg and arm. Now he's here. Even this master couldn't help him break the 100. Thinking that he would never see Lu Jiuxi again, Su Huaibei felt reluctant to leave. Suddenly, a rustling sound came from outside. Su Huaibei immediately became alert, picking up a stone nearby. A figure flickered at the entrance of the cave. Su Huaibei saw who it was. His heart skipped a beat. A small, disheveled figure appeared. It was the little girl he had been thinking about. Mu Jiuxi looked exhausted, but couldn't hide her joy. Master Mu saved you from disaster. Who says it has to be a hero saving a beauty? This girl refuses to take the easy path. Mu Jiuxi ventures into the mountains. After enduring countless hardships, she finally sees her man. He carefully bandages Su Huaibei's wounds. Su Huaibei looks at him, all battered and worn. The mountains are dangerous. He must have suffered greatly to look like this. He asked Jiuxi why he woke up alone. Jiuxi explained that he didn't see Su Huaibei after waking up. He forced Jingji to bring him here. They encountered Ling Yushan on the way, who caused trouble. So he left Jingji to deal with it. Su Huaibei looked serious. What was Jingji doing? I told him to protect you. He not only brought you here, but also left you alone on the mountain. If anything happens to you, I will definitely not let him off. Jiuxi chuckled wickedly. You're so worried about me? Su Huaibei quickly looked away. I'm afraid something will happen to you. I can't explain this to the Mu family. Jiuxi continues to press. Oh, is that so? The Mu family is merely a duke's house. How can their power compare to a prince's? What's more, I ran away on my own. So even if something unexpected happens, the Mu family won't come after you. With me here, nothing unexpected will happen. I pretended I didn't hear what you said. I didn't hear clearly. Su Huaibei suddenly pulled him over. He embraced him. I said you'll be fine. Nothing will happen. Then he turned his head away, embarrassed. Let's continue treating the wound. Jiuxi reached out and lifted his chin. With a smack, she kissed him on the face. That's my mark. You're mine now. If you don't come to my house to propose, I'll take the betrothal gifts to the prince's mansion to propose to you. Faced with this brazen woman, Su Huaibei could only silently sigh in defeat. While Su Huaibei was still embarrassed, Mu Jiuxi's wound has already been bandaged. Even a cute little bow was tied. That night, Jiuxi slept soundly in Su Huaibei's arms. Su Huaibei wanted to wipe the dirt off her face, but he couldn't wipe it off no matter what. He looked at Jiuxi with heartache. The mud was caked onto her face. How long did it take her to get here? Thinking of this, he couldn't help but hug the little girl tighter again. The next day, Jiuxi woke up beside Su Huaibei. He looked at Su Huaibei with a love-struck expression. The sleeping man before him was the most handsome of all the 5,000 worlds he had traveled through. Suddenly, the man's eyes flickered open. He looked at Jiuxi. His heart couldn't help but pound again. A handsome man beside him. This female hooligan couldn't help but go up and give another sloppy kiss. After the kiss, she giggled foolishly at Su Huaibei. Su Huaibei helplessly touched his cheek. Being with this little girl, something is bound to happen. He wanted to find a way down the mountain for now. Jiuxi hurriedly stopped him. He explained while roasting sweet potatoes. I've left a mark for Jingji. He should be here soon. Then he handed the baked sweet potato to Su Huaibei. You imperial princes have probably never eaten something like this before, have you? Su Huaibei looked at the fragrant baked sweet potato. Previous questions flooded his mind again. How do you know how to do this? The receding yellow river, the prison, CEO Chui's resurrection, and the precise escape route during the fire. And now you can instantly find my location. Tell me who you really are. This girl is a complete gangster, taking advantage of men's unguarded moments. She'd sneak up and plant a big kiss. Once she's marked you, you're hers. Such audacious behavior. Even the worldly wise prince blushed. Faced with Mu Jiuxi, who is proficient in all 18 martial arts, Su Huaibei finally asked the questions that had been in his heart. Who are you? Jiuxi immediately changed the subject. Su Huaibei immediately saw through his little trick. Seeing that his plan failed, Jiuxi instantly changed his demeanor. He pretended to be in pain, touching his forehead. Su Huaibei's face showed genuine concern. He asked where she felt unwell. Jiuxi threw herself into his arms. She described how dangerous her climb up the mountain had been the previous day. Hearing that Jiuxi had almost fallen off a cliff, Su Huaibei's face turned angry. I know you've sacrificed a lot for me. But are you ready to talk about marriage? I will go to the shogunate to ask for your hand in marriage. But you are still young. Right now, all I can do is protect you to the best of my ability. At these words, Jiu Si and Bai Wanzi's hearts began to pound with excitement. Celebrating, they both automatically ignored the latter half of Su Huaibei's sentence. At this moment, a figure darted out from the cave entrance. It was Jing Ji, following the markers left by Jiu Si. The officer walked in and saw them embracing. They quickly separated. Jing Ji secretly regretted her arrival. Her body stiff, she quickly left. He was crouching in the corner, small and helpless, having interrupted the prince's good time. Would she be safe? In the evening, Su Huaibei and his group returned to the inn. Lin Yushan had been waiting at the inn. He hypocritically claimed he and his men had searched the mountain all day for the missing person. He saw the child, covered by a cloak in Su Huaibei's arms. He asked about the child's identity. Su Huaibei explained that the child had been with him. They had been trapped in the mountains together. He was afraid of Lin Yushan's ulterior motives. Su Huaibei made a few perfunctory remarks before claiming fatigue, and went to rest. Lin Yushan respectfully saw Su Huaibei off. After Su Huaibei left, he immediately ordered his men to find out where this child came from. He had originally planned to use this incident to eliminate Su Hui, but this child suddenly appeared. It seems things are not simple. The innkeeper informed us that only one room was left. We'll have to share a room, I'm afraid. His accommodating behavior earned high praise from the female thug, Jiu Si. Su Huaibei, behind them, said he had already prepared the bathwater. He asked Jiu Si to take a bath. He would wait outside. Because Jiu Si didn't bring any extra clothes, she would just make do with what she had. Su Huaibei looked at Su Huaibei, who was adhering to etiquette. Jiu Si exclaimed, "My husband is such a righteous gentleman." He buried his face in the water, praying that he would grow up quickly. He didn't want to miss such a good. After showering, Jiu Si came out wearing Su Huaibei's large robe. Su Huaibei was stunned for a moment seeing this delicate little girl. To ease the awkwardness, he offered to help Jiu Si wipe the horse's barrel. Jiu Si looked up at Su Huaibei. A pair of large, watery eyes stared at Su Huaibei. Her heart beat fast. He quickly dropped the towel and left hurriedly, leaving a bewildered Jiu Si. What is Su Huaibei doing? Wasn't he supposed to be wiping her hair? Little did he know, Su Huaibei was still trying to calm himself down. Could it be that he truly had feelings for this little girl? What is it like to sleep in the same bed with the one you love? After Su Huaibei finished showering, he saw that Jiu Si was sleeping sprawled out on the bed, drooling. He gently covered Jiu Si with a blanket, and poked her chubby cheek. Looking at the sleeping girl with a doting expression. The next morning, Jiu Si opened her sleepy eyes. Since following Su Huaibei to Huangzhou, it was the first time she slept so comfortably. She contentedly rolled around in bed. Su Huaibei came in carrying breakfast. Lazy pig, don't you want to get out of bed? Jiu Si is lounging in bed. I just wanted to know what it's like to be served by the prince. And thus, Princess Jiu Si's three-step morning routine was born. I never thought I'd be serving someone like this one day. Your Highness serves well. If I can't become, Your Highness can come serve me as a manservant. Huaibei, move the table to the bedside. Rarely teasingly said. Remember to pay me a higher wage then. Then the police came in. Jiu Si listened intently. It seemed they were discussing Lin Yushan and her. Then Su Huaibei came before Jiu Si. He arranged for Jing Ji to send Jiu Si home after dinner. But Jiu Si said she wouldn't leave. If I leave by myself, Lin Yushan will be even more suspicious. So he has to let Lin Yushan see him. Seeing Jiu Si's confident look, Su Huaibei was about to ask if he had a plan, when a guard suddenly reported that Cui Zuming had arrived. Jiu Si looked satisfied. It came just in time. Su Huaibei instantly understood Jiu Si's intention. He wanted CEO Cui to impersonate him, to dispel Xiao Ling Yushan's suspicions. Su Huaibei combed Jiu Si's hair. While asking him why he harbored such deep animosity towards Ling Yushan, Jiu Si explained that he was betrothed to Ling Yushan's son, Lin Ziqian, and that he had caught Lin Ziqian visiting a brothel. He then developed murderous intent. He pushed himself off the building. As a result, he was in a coma for a whole month before waking up. He told Su Huaibei everything. After hearing this, Su Huaibei behind him was already filled with murderous intent. Now, he probably wants to kill Lin Ziqian. He gently embraced Jiu Si. Don't worry, I'm here. They won't hurt you again. Nor will they hurt the Mu family again. At this moment, the door creaked open. CEO Cui Lin appeared at the doorway. He respectfully reported to Su Juanbei that he had come through the mountains. He avoided the crowd. No one saw him. Su Huaibei turned around and asked CEO Cui to come with him. Before CEO Cui left the room, he couldn't help but glance at Jiu Si again. He tried hard to suppress his laughter, and pointed to the ceiling. Jiu Si was initially puzzled, until he looked in the mirror. Su Huaibei had actually styled himself an incredibly ugly, spiky hairstyle. Seeing Bai Wanzi laughing on the floor, Jiu-Si angrily threw the mirror at Su Huaibei. You're finished. This girl is furious now. She had originally been immersed in the touching moment of her beloved man styling her hair, but after looking in the mirror, it was actually a spiky hairstyle that looked like candied haws. While Jiu-Si was still scolding Su Huaibei, the person involved had already brought Cui Yongming before Lin Yushan. I heard that Lord Lin has been wanting to see this child. I wonder what it's about. Lin Yushan hastily explained. I was only worried about the chaos here. Afraid something might happen to the child. This child has been following this king all the way from Huangzhou. Don't trouble yourself, Lord Lin. Su Huaibei then instructed Lin Yushan to prepare a carriage. He had to return to the capital due to the imperial edict. As the two turned to leave, Master Cui quietly asked Su Huaibei, is this man playing tricks on the young lady? Su Huaibei was quite surprised by Master Cui's perceptiveness. He also urged Cui Yunlin to be reliable. Xiao Cui will be online soon, he promised with his chest slumped. This matter will only stay buried in his heart. Then Cui Yonglin asked Su Huaibei if he could take him to Beijing. He wanted to join the army. Su Huaibei agreed to take him to Beijing, but, to join the army, one must also know how to read. To study military books, you want to practice martial arts. I can find you a master. But remember, you must not use your martial arts to bully others. Reliable Xiao Cui is back online. He says he will use his life to guarantee he will handle these matters. Su Huaibei enters the room. As soon as he enters, he sees a ferocious face. Su Huaibei pretends that he still has things to attend to, turning to run. Jiu-Si, furious, chased after Su Huaibei. Stop right there. But he tripped and fell, losing his breath. Su Huaibei quickly helped him up. He lifted Jiu-Si into his arms. The little girl in his arms was still struggling. A chaotic attack. Huaibei softly comforted her. Go back and tell Xueshi Datong that I will definitely style Jiu-Si's hair beautifully next time. The little girl still wasn't appeased. She raised her foot and kicked him. Unexpectedly, this guy couldn't dodge it. Are you appeased now? If you're still not appeased, kick me a few more times. Seeing Su Huaibei's sincere apology, Jiu-Si felt embarrassed to stay angry. He asked Lin Yushan if he showed any flaws when he saw Xiao Cui's rebellion. However, to avoid any unforeseen events, we will proceed today. At this moment, a waiter came to the door to serve the dishes. Jiu-Si stopped Su Huaibei, who was about to open the door. I secretly hid behind the screen. Su Huaibei opened the door. Sure enough, besides the waiter, Ling Yushan was also at the door. He pretended to report on the carriage preparations, but he was actually checking for anything unusual in Su Huaibei's room. Su Huaibei showed displeasure. He dismissed Ling Yushan. After closing the door, Jiu-Si came out from behind the screen. It seems Ling Yushan is still very suspicious. If he wasn't trying to use Ling Yu to eliminate the culprits behind the previous life's plot against the Mu family, he would have found a way to get rid of this family long ago. Su Huaibei stroked Jiu-Si's little head. Don't worry, I won't let him hurt you again. This is my promise to you. Jiu-Si looked moved. I believe waking up to be surrounded by a group of beautiful maids is a... What's it like? After a good night's sleep, Jiu-Si woke up from the bed in the regent's palace. A group of maidservants had been waiting for a long time. Lady Chuanxi enthusiastically introduced herself to Jiu-Si. After the maidservants respectfully withdrew from the room, Bai Wanji shyly appeared, with a gossipy look, asking Jiu-Si if she felt threatened by such a group of beautiful maidservants. Jiu's from the director said he felt no pressure. He was very confident in his outwardly cold husband. Su Huaibei had gone to court early in the morning, so Jiu's could only lie bored on the railing feeding the fish. Just as he was dejectedly lamenting Su Huaibei's absence, a commotion came from behind. He saw the butler stopping a richly dressed young man from entering. Facing the butler's obstruction, the boy didn't take it seriously at all. He walked in without a care. She, the steward, smoothed things over, but he couldn't stop him. Is 13th brother hiding a woman? Then, unexpectedly, he saw the woman by the railing. It turned out 13th brother really did have a young lady hidden in the manor. The steward dealt with the boy's whining. I'm warning you, 16th prince, be careful what you say. If this gets out, this young lady's and the prince's reputations will be ruined. But look at Jiu-Si, so brazen. Don't talk nonsense. Your prince is responsible for me. At these words, the steward and Chuanxi nearby nearly jumped out of their skins. The boy became interested in the straightforward girl before him. Then tell me why my 13th brother should be responsible for you. Who are you, and why should I tell you? The boy opened his fan. My name is Su Huijing. I'm the 16th son in my family. This is my 13th brother's mansion. Little miss, you should know who I am now, shouldn't you? You're Su Huaibei's younger brother. Then I should call you sister-in-law, right? Su Huijing laughed even harder. What an interesting little girl. What's your name? Just call me Jiu-Si. Don't call me. Little girl, you were the one who called me that. Alright, then, let's think it over. How are you going to tell me a story? Jusi suggested that Su Huijing should first take him out for a stroll. He was almost suffocated staying in the prince's mansion all day. Su Huijing wouldn't miss the chance to hear gossip. She immediately agreed. In the marketplace, Su Huijing noticed that Jusi was very familiar with the surroundings. She asked, "Are you a native of the capital? I am Mu Jiusi, the youngest daughter of the Mu family. I wonder if my status is worthy of you, 13th brother." "It is worthy." But Su Huijing secretly worried in her heart. The Mu family controls half of the imperial court's power. How could 13th brother commit such a taboo of power struggle? At this time, Jiusi saw a familiar figure in the crowd. She immediately left Su Huijing and chased after him. He's truly Lin Yushan's son. That wolfish cousin of his, Lin Ziqian. What's he sneaking around for? Other noble young ladies are refined and elegant, polite and courteous. Only this little missy doesn't follow the usual path. In broad daylight, she's eavesdropping from the wall. Because she saw that sneaky wolfish cousin on the road. I smell a conspiracy. Jiusi secretly followed. Lin Ziqian and 2 others were secretly meeting in the courtyard. Jiusi looked closely. One of the women was an old acquaintance from my past life. She was Shen Yingying, a famous courtesan from Chengxinla. In my past life, Shen Yingying and my 6th brother secretly pledged their love to each other. Because of this, my 6th brother was expelled from the family. I later found out she was actually someone close to Lin Ziqian. I never imagined those two were colluding so early on. Just as Jiusi was greatly shocked. Shen Yingying sensed someone on the wall and feared being discovered. Jiusi immediately turned around and tried to slide down the wall, but was struck by a projectile thrown by the other party. I fell to the ground at once. This body is still too weak. At this time, Mu Yuanzhang of the shogunate was furious upon hearing of Jiusi's disappearance. He was incredibly enraged. Su Huijing, his face full of self-blame, said, "It's my fault, Your Highness. I've already sent people to search for your daughter." Su Huaibei, to the side, remained calm and looked pitiful. After comforting Mu Yuanzhang, Su Huijing began to comfort her own brother. She carefully apologized to her brother. Su Huaibei ignored him. He turned and left. "Even if I have to search the entire capital first, I will find him back." That evening, Jiusi walked aimlessly. Then she heard a door creak open. It was Lin Ziqian who entered. He held a dagger in his hand, a Mu Jiusi dagger. "I hope you're well. You tricked me. You made me lose face, and you let your second brother frame me. I'm going to settle the score with you." "I'm not the least bit afraid. It's all your own fault. You're better off finding a pig. See if you were related to him in your past life." Saying this, he struggled with his hands tied behind his back. "Still being so glib in my hands. Believe it or not, I'll finish you off right now. If you've got the guts, come on. What kind of man are you, being so wishy-washy?" Completely enraged, Lin Ziqian kicked Zhou Si Mu. "Zhou Si, don't think I'm a pushover. It depends on whether you have the destiny to get it." In the blink of an eye, 94 secretly broke free from the ropes, and lunged at Lin Ziqian. With a swift move, he snatched the dagger from Lin Ziqian's hand, and without hesitation, slashed him. Taking advantage of the moment Lin Ziqian was injured, he quickly escaped. At that moment, on the dark street, Jiusi was cornered by pursuers from behind. He pressed himself close to the wall, afraid of being discovered by the pursuers. Suddenly, a large hand grabbed his collar. Jiusi swung his hand, preparing to attack. But his hand was seized by the other party. Whoosh! Su Huaibei held him in his arms. "I'm sorry, I'm late." Seeing Su Huaibei, Jiusi's tense nerves finally relaxed. He hadn't even cried yet. Overwhelmed by exhaustion and relief, he instantly fainted. The big shot he'd finally managed to latch onto was actually going to break up with him. How can I coax him back? Waiting online, urgent. Speaking of which, Jiusi was tracking Ling. Zi Qianbu turned the tables and hunted him down. Luckily, Su Huaibei arrived in time, and saved Jiusi's life. Su Huaibei carried Jiusi back to the prince's mansion. He gently put down Jiusi, who was still closing his eyes. "Get up, stop pretending." Seeing his trick exposed, Jiusi could only open his eyes. He threw his arms around Su Huaibei's arm, and started acting cute. He promised he wouldn't run around again next time. Su Huaibei looked worried. Luckily, he arrived in time this time. That little girl has too many secrets. "I can't tolerate it anymore." He grabbed Jusi's arm. He asked her, "Where did you go? Why do you always put yourself in danger?" Jusi retorted, "Because Su Huaibei hasn't come back yet, so I went out with Su Huijing." A day feels like years apart. It's been ages. It's been 6 autumns since we last met, but Jiusi still refuses to tell the truth. Su Huaibei stood up. "Since you don't want to say, don't come to my manor again." With a bang, he slammed the door and left. Jiusi's face is a picture of collapse. "He's breaking up with me." Bai Wanzi whispers a reminder. "Wake up." He's never agreed to be your boyfriend. Shut your mouth. Jiu-si, feeling guilty, thinks it over. She decides to apologize to Su Huaibei. She arrives at Su Huaibei's door. But then I suddenly stopped. How am I supposed to coax him? Buy him some delicious food? Or tell him a joke? It seems like none of these tricks work. Bai Wanzi reminded me again. Use your signature skills. Throw a tantrum, act cute, use everything. I suspect you're being sarcastic, but I have no proof. Now that it's come to this, I can only grit my teeth and go on. Suddenly, Jiu-si heard a woman's voice coming from inside the room. Listening closely, it seemed to be Chuanxi, the maidservant. Jiu-si secretly pierced the window paper. He looked inside. He didn't know until he looked. He was shocked. This bold maid had actually scared Su Huaiwei into wedding himself. She was planning to force Su Huaiwei to do unspeakable things. Jiu-si couldn't stand it anymore. He immediately burst in. Clothes were already off. What else are you hiding? He looked at Su Huaibei on the bed. Wow, my man's clothes were almost completely stripped off. Jiu-si quickly covered him with a blanket. Damn it, I haven't even seen it myself yet. Chuanxi saw that only Jiu-si was there, so she didn't bother pretending anymore. Little girl, I advise you to mind your own business. Ruined my sister's good deed. Don't blame me for being ruthless then. With your figure, lacking both front and back. No wonder you had to knock someone unconscious. You do have some self-awareness, at least. Facing Jiu-si's mockery, Chun-Shi didn't care at all. I've served the prince for over 10 years. Even if the prince wakes up and finds out, he'll just scold me. But you, at such a young age, are shameless. And you even dare to dream of becoming a princess. Be careful the prince punishes you. Before she finished speaking, Jiu-si slapped her. Whether or not I'll be punished, I don't know. I only know you might not live to see the prince wake up. Damn it. My husband was drugged. He was lying in bed, and his clothes were almost ripped off. Who can tolerate this? Mu Jiu burst into the room. She slapped the maid who had administered the drug. How dare you covet my husband? It seems you won't live to see the prince wake up. Suddenly, another man rushed in from the doorway, identical to the maidservant inside. It turned out he was the prince's personal maidservant. Chuanxi inside was his twin sister, Chun Xiao. How? You finally decided to show yourself. Miss, how did you know she wasn't me? Shuesi grabbed Chuanxiao's hand. You don't smell as strongly of rouge, and you have 5 moles on your wrist, but this woman doesn't. Chuanxi knelt down. Please, miss, I beg you to spare Chun Xiao for my many years of service to the prince. You served Su Huaibei, not me. Why should I spare her for your sake? Since you insist on punishing Chun Xiao, miss, then punish me as well. Jiu-si narrowed her eyes. Are you threatening me? Putting the two of you together in the same tent. 5 offenses. Never to be employed again. A voice suddenly came from behind. It turned out that Su Huaibei wasn't really knocked unconscious. Both the real and fake Chuanxi heard that the prince didn't kill him. They felt grateful to Su Huaibei. Jiu-si was very displeased with Su Huaibei's deceitful behavior. He didn't speak. He got up to leave. Su Huaibei pulled him into his embrace. Where are you going? This servant is shameless. I broke into the prince's residence late at night. Since I've already cooperated with the prince and finished the act, I'll go home and plead guilty now. I'm just a servant girl. There's no need to worry about me. They are still useful. Spare their lives for now. Faced with Su Huaibei's calm and composed demeanor, Jiu-si dared not even breathe a word of defiance. Su Huaibei sighed. I can't do anything with you. Just now, I was the one who was angry, and now it's turned into me appeasing you. You're really difficult to please. Jiu-si was completely stunned. If you don't want to serve me, just say so. This young lady has plenty of people to serve her. You've ruined my reputation. Who else do you think I'll find to serve me? That's hard to say. At the very least, Lin Ziqian is still waiting to marry into my Mu family. Hearing Lin Ziqian's name, Huaibei's face darkened. Was he the one who kidnapped you this time? Jiu-si secretly regretted it. Why are we talking about this again? To avoid being interrogated by this man again, he slipped away. At this time, Lin Yushan was still waiting at the Mu family's door. After so much had happened, he decided to come and find Jiu-si to talk. The door opened, and a maid came out carrying a package. My young lady said, return the item to its owner. Lin Yushan opened it to see. Inside, it was shockingly his son, Lin Ziqian. He had been cut, and came to the chancellor's residence that night. He informed the chancellor about the smuggling ring in Huaibei, and he asked the chancellor to help him and his son avenge themselves. The chancellor listened but didn't reply. He only gave Lin Yushan a perfunctory response before dismissing him. And this scene was being watched very clearly by Jiu-si through an external projection. It seems Lin Yushan and the chancellor have had a close relationship for quite some time. Could the mastermind be the chancellor? But Jiu-si felt that he was still missing some crucial information. Suddenly, a noise came from outside the door. Who was it that visited late at night? This little girl, reborn. To prevent the tragedy of her past life from repeating itself, she actually jumped from the tea house. Back to the last episode. Jusi realized there was movement outside her door. She opened the door to see. It was her second brother. He threw himself into his second older brother's embrace and acted spoiled, facing this adorable younger sister. The second older brother, who had originally wanted to scold her for leaving home without permission, instantly lost his anger. He turned around to report his safety to his other brothers. Jusi was about to close the door, but saw his sixth older brother crying at the door. In the middle of the night, his sixth older brother was in such a hurry to go out. I guess he's going to see his old flame, Shaninin, from a past life. Sure enough, sixth brother said he's planning a surprise. Jiu-Si quickly said he wanted to go to the stage too. Shen Yingying was playing the pipa. Jiu-Si deliberately praised Shen Yingying's beauty in front of sixth brother. He knew sixth brother and Shen Yingying already knew each other, but he didn't know the extent of their relationship. I must do everything I can to cut off their supplies. So Jiu-Si asked sixth brother to invite Shen Yingying over. Previously, Shen Yingying was planted by Lin Ziqian beside sixth brother. She's an important pawn in bringing down the Mu family. At this moment, he saw Jiu-Si. His heart felt a secret unease. If Jiu-Si recognized him, that girl would surely. It's really pretty. I find her familiar, too. I remember. I've seen this woman before, around Lin Ziqian. At these words, Shen Yingying broke out in a cold sweat. He hurriedly claimed he didn't know Lin Ziqi. She doesn't remember. We only saw him yesterday. Sixth brother, who was standing nearby, was startled. Could it be that Jusi's master's master was connected to Shen Yingying yesterday? He immediately stood up. He prepared to go to the tea house to ask the proprietor for clarification. At this time, Jusi turned his head. He saw someone walking into the tea house. This person was Su Huaibei. The little girl kept it in mind. It's just in time. A cry of surprise was heard. Jiu-Si fell from the tea house. Su Huaibei was startled when he saw it. He leaped forward and caught Jiu-Si. Jiu-Si struggled free from his arms, and directly threw herself at sixth brother. Sixth brother, Jiu-Si is so scared. Sixth brother softly comforted her. Shen Yingying hurriedly rushed downstairs and knelt down. Young sixth master, this has nothing to do with me. I didn't push Miss Mu down. You didn't do it. Could it be that Jiu-Si climbed onto the railing and jumped down by herself? Yesterday, she clearly climbed onto the roof as well. Shen Yingying spoke without thinking. She actually blurted out about kidnapping Joss yesterday. The words were out before she realized the problem. Didn't you say you didn't see Joss yesterday? Sixth brother ordered Shen Yingying's arrest. The steward hurriedly stepped in to mediate. Sixth brother, wait a moment. After all, no one saw Yingying push Miss Mu. You can't take someone away without evidence. He silently despaired in his heart. If Shen Yingying were taken away, and offended that important person, my tea house would be finished. This king saw this woman push Miss Mu from the second floor. Seeing that the manager still hesitated, the evidence wasn't sufficient. That's it. Everyone could only watch helplessly as Shen Yingying was taken away. The steward immediately instructed the servants to quickly inform the lord and the physician. Let's see what to do now. He was originally a just and upright prince. After encountering a mischievous little girl, now he lies without blushing. Jiu-Si tried to stop sixth brother from falling in love with Shen Yingying, the enemy's informant, jumped from the ninth floor, and blamed Shen Yingying. Su Huaibei also sat calmly beside. The steward could only helplessly watch Shen Yingying being taken away. On the carriage, Liusi suddenly smelled a strange fragrance. Before she could think, she had already fainted. But she suddenly woke up, finding herself lying in her own bed. Only after by Wanzi's hint did I realize that I had been affected by the alluring scent on Shen Yingying's body 9 times. I immediately went to the front hall. As soon as I entered, I started asking about Shen Yingying. Xiang Muyuan Zhuang picked up his daughter, and had already locked her up for questioning. Only then did Jiu-Si feel relieved. At this time, a servant reported, Lin Yushan has arrived. Mu Yuanzhang's face was expressionless. He coldly ordered him to come in. He wanted to see what Lin Yushan was doing at this juncture. As soon as Lin Yushan entered, he immediately got straight to the point. I heard that your manor arrested an actor today. Jiu-Si sized up Lin Yushan. So quick to bail someone out. Sure enough, Shen Yingying has an important connection to his family. Meanwhile, Lin Yushan continued to feign concern, asking about Jiu-Si's situation. He had a loving expression on his face, as if Jiu-Si wasn't the one who cut off his son's ear. Jiu-Si thought to himself, this man is deeply scheming. He probably wishes I wouldn't show even a hint of emotion. This person is too deep, too calculating. I absolutely cannot tolerate this. He looked at Lingyu Mountain and then showed an innocent smile. I was pushed down. I didn't fall by myself, just like Lin Ziqian pushed me before. Then he looked steadily at Lin Yushan. Did you come to clear his name? Lin Yushan, in order to save someone, gritted his teeth and admitted, to be honest, this actor and the Lin family have some connection. Leave it to me. I will thoroughly investigate. I will give you an explanation. He hadn't finished speaking. Mu Yuanzhang was already furious. That person, in broad daylight, attempted to murder someone from the 9 ministries. You want to take the person away directly? Do you think the Mu family is easy to bully? Jiao Si interjected from the side, Father. Otherwise, let's return this person to the Lin family. He even came to our door demanding him. Maybe she's Lin Ziqian's lover. Saying this, Jiao Si jumped down from Zhang's arms. If you admit that she is Lin Ziqian's lover, I'll return her to you. Lin Yushan was extremely reluctant. If he admitted that his son had an actress as a lover, it would spread. What a disgrace. But Shen Yingying's powerful backer is also someone we can't afford to offend. No matter how unwilling I am right now, I can only admit it. Then go back and prepare. When the wedding day comes, we'll send her to the Lin family. I want to see just how far the Lin family will go for Shen Yingying. Upon hearing this, Zhang Xian of Mu's family is unhappy. He can't let this go easily. Attempting to harm his own daughter. Su Huaibei, standing to the side, suddenly spoke. If young Master Lin truly loves this actor willingly, it's not good to forcibly separate them. Since the little girl wants them to marry, this king will lend a hand. This little girl, in order to marry the prince, has come up with all sorts of schemes. She even dared to offer herself to him in front of her family. Speaking of which, Lin Yushan, in order to save Shen Yinyin, the actress with powerful connections, bit the bullet and admitted that Shen Yinyin was his son Lin Ziqian's lover. With Jiao Si and Su Huaibei's help, Mu Yuanzhang reluctantly agreed to bring Lin Ziqian and Shen Yinyin back to the Lin residence on their wedding day. Lin Yushan knew Jiao Si was making things difficult for him, but circumstances forced my hand. I could only nod in agreement. The wedding is in 3 days. At that time, please be sure to return Miss Shen. Jiao Si watched Lin Yushan's departing back. He agreed so readily. It seems that Shen Yingying is a very important wife to the Lin family and those behind them. A very important wife indeed. He silently breathed a sigh of relief. Everything is finally resolved smoothly. Sixth brother, who was harmed by Shen Yingying in his past life, is also safe now. Before he finished thinking, Mu Yuanzhang gave Jiao Si a stern look. You, acting on your own accord, are lawless. Su Huaibei, who was standing nearby, spoke up to defend Jiao Si. It's not your fault, Magoo. After all, villains are everywhere. It's impossible to guard against them. Jusi hadn't even had time to be touched by her man's defense of her, when Su Huaibei suddenly changed the subject. But Miss Mu is still young, so it's best to avoid places full of shady characters. This little girl has repeatedly put herself in danger. It's time to take care of this dangerous situation. The little girl secretly complains. This petty man is still angry. He stood properly in front of Su Huaibei, respectfully bowing. Jiao Si thanks the prince for saving my life. Seeing the little girl suddenly become so serious, Su Huaibei instinctively felt that she was up to something. Jusi continued, Your Highness, the storybook says, one should repay a life-saving grace with one's body. Then should I repay your highness with my body? Before she finished speaking, she was grabbed by Mu Yuanzhang. He muttered, Don't be so disrespectful. Sixth brother quickly apologized to Su Huaibei. Jusi is so outspoken. Your highness needn't take it seriously. But Su Huaibei looked quite serious. When Miss Mu comes of age, what's wrong with that? These words nearly shocked Mu Yuanzhang and Mu Yongkang speechless. However, Miss Mu is still young. If in the future Miss Mu still has such thoughts, she can come and seek this prince out again. It wouldn't be impossible. 9 Considerations Policy. Your Highness, we have an agreement. You can't go back on your word. Su Huaibei also solemnly promised not to go back on his word. After sending Su Huaibei away, Mu Yuanzhang's face was serious. Those things I spoke of earlier with your highness must never be mentioned again. He may be a prince, but he's definitely not your ideal husband. Jiao Si, getting impatient, retorted, Why not? Aren't all the storybooks like that? Mu Yuanzhang treated Jiao Si like a child, gently tapping her forehead. So young, and already thinking about getting married. There's no more room for you at home. After saying that, Mu Yuanzhang told Jusi to stay in the room and not run around. Then he left. As soon as his father left, his bright eyes reflected the light on the floor. He wasn't told not to do anything in the room, just not to run around. The white pill beside him looked understanding. Host, I suspect you're going to cause trouble again. Jusi chuckled secretly. Anyway, Su Huaibei can't see. A joyous day. Should have been a day of great joy. Why does this man look like he ate dog shit? His face is full of displeasure. 3 days ago, Lin Ziqian learned that he was to marry the actress Shen Yinyin. Fear was written all over his face. I don't want him, he'll kill me. Lin Yushan looked at his own useless son. This is the only way to bring her back from the Mu family. No matter how strong Shen Yinyin is, she's still just a woman. After marrying into our family, she'll be at your disposal. Lin Ziqian wanted to refuse again, but Lin Yushan coldly interrupted him. Okay, my mind is set as a father. This matter ends here. At this time, Lin Ziqian, dressed in wedding attire, was waiting to the left of the Mu family's gate. His hair was let down, seemingly trying to cover something, hiding his missing ear. The surrounding people were whispering amongst themselves. What is the young master of the Lin family doing here? Didn't he already break off the engagement with Miss Mu? You're so ill-informed. Master Lin isn't here to marry Miss Mu. He's here to marry an actress. The one who pushed Miss Mu from the theater stage. Lin Ziqian was filled with resentment, but he could only grit his teeth and endure the injustice. The humiliation inflicted by the Mu family. I will one day get it all back. At that moment, the gates of Mu Manor opened. Shen Yingying was pushed out. She was scantily clad. There were suspicious red marks on her body. She looked utterly disheveled. The surrounding crowd erupted in laughter. A legally married wife, brought home as a worn-out shoe. Master Lin, you're in high spirits. Evening. I've finally finished dealing with that commotion. A shriek came from the bridal chamber. Lin Ziqian was knocked to the ground. What do you think you're doing? Shen Yingying tugged at her clothes. She looked down at the man on the ground with disdain. Lin Ziqian, recognize your own position. You think marrying me allows you to act recklessly? Lin Ziqian clenched his fists. He said resentfully. He was kicked out of the room on his wedding night. He stood at the door like a stray dog. One day, I'll make all those vile people kneel and apologize. At this moment, Jiu Si watched his masterpiece proudly through the projection. Lin Jiawei sacrificed quite a lot by clinging to the powerful. The onlookers, by Wanzi, sighed, host, you're too ruthless. Shen Yingying probably wouldn't be able to figure it out no matter what. She wouldn't understand how the red marks on her body appeared. Jiu Si's expression turned serious. He married an actress. Even if Shen Yingying were gone, Lin Ziqian would absolutely never be able to marry a daughter from a respectable family again. Lin Yushan can even tolerate this. It seems Shen Yingying is very important to the person behind this. I guess there will be more trouble to deal with next. I need to focus on ensuring the normal operation of Baiwanzi. Speaking of which, Baiwanzi suddenly mentioned, host, I've recently found a powerful force trying to suppress. And I've discovered this force is in the capital. What on earth happened? 1 second the girl was complimenting the older sister on her beauty, the next she was pulling her hair. Speaking of Jiu Si, the system cheat she brought back after her rebirth, Baiwan has been suppressed by a powerful force lately. And Baiwan has already found out that this force is in the capital. Jiu Si is quite disdainful. So after all this investigation, they only found out it's in the capital. This questioning struck a nerve with the weakling, Little Ball. He instantly bristled. It's certain that within a certain range, that's his limit. If I continue the investigation, both Jiu Si and Little Ball will be discovered by the other party. Jiu Si can only stop for now. Some things can't be forced. We have to take it slow. At this time, the maid reported that the second young master had arrived. Jiu Si immediately went to greet him, but secretly wondered what was wrong with her second brother. She saw Mu Hongwen scoop Jiu Si up in his arms, without even bothering to put on her shoes. What if she catches a cold? He explained his purpose. Jiu Si is, after all, the legitimate daughter of a general's family. A single maid is too little for a governor, so I assigned her an extra maid. A maidservant stepped forward and respectfully greeted Jiu Si. The green-clothed one, Green Fox in her past life, was bought off by the Ling Yushan father and son. She's a faithless villain. Unexpectedly, Jiu Si didn't coax her. She dared to come closer. Xiao Si sized up the pretty Lu Fu. Sister Lu Fu, you are so beautiful. Lu Fu blushed. Thank you for the compliment, miss. Before she finished speaking, Jiu Si suddenly reached out and grabbed her hair, yanking her forcefully towards him. Yu Fu's eyes instantly welled up. She asked, her voice choked with tears, did I do something wrong, my lady, or have I angered you? Jiu Si's face was dark and gloomy. I just don't like you. Where did you even come from? I'm sure I've seen you at the Lin family before. Yu Fu quickly defended herself, saying she had absolutely no connection to the Lin family. Jiu Si pointed to her waist. You haven't been around Lin Ziding. Then why do you have a pouch custom-made for the Lin family on your waist? Yu Fu immediately checked her waist, finding she indeed had a pouch there. Her pupils dilated, full of terror. Instinctively said, impossible. I clearly took it off. Mu Hongwen's eyes darkened, taking a few steps. He immediately ordered his servants to take the woman away, and thoroughly investigate. After giving the order, he turned to Jiu Si and apologized, saying it was his negligence. You actually sent the villain to my sister. Second brother will go investigate immediately. I will make those who hurt Jiu Si pay tenfold. Jiu Si and Axie watched second brother and his group leave. Axie looked at the pouch that fell on the ground. Carefree, she picked up the pouch. This is clearly my girl. How can you say it's her? Jiu Si's face is full of smiles. That's not important. Achien. You deserve the credit, of course. The biggest contributor is definitely the white egg that secretly put the purse on the green fox.